A reflection about St. Paul's leniency for new converts. In the New Testament book of 1 Corinthians, the Apostle Paul says, "If what I eat causes another believer to sin, I will never eat meat again, as long as I live. For I don't want to cause another believer to stumble."
What?
What if we can sign up Paul to the vegetarian cause after all? I mean, sure, he didn't get along with the Jesus movement very well, and if you read the Clementine homilies, they didn't really care for him either. They had a very frosty relationship. They met with him a couple of times at least. But from our modern day perspective, we can enjoy the wisdom of both, right? We can enjoy the gnosis of Paul and be amazed to learn about these Hebrew Christians and what they were teaching and their scriptures, their writings. We have that luxury. We can choose both. We don't have to necessarily take sides, reject one and follow the other. As we will see next week, the Gnostics were vegetarians, as well as some of those early Catholic or Orthodox church fathers. Both the Orthodox and the Gnostics held Paul in extremely high regard. So, how could Paul really have been the enemy, the opponent of vegetarian Christians? Maybe he wasn't? Can we sign up Paul for the vegetarian cause after all? Perhaps at the heart of his dispute with the original disciples and Jerusalem apostles was how he wished to structure his new community of Gentile converts. Some in early Christianity did develop a twofold or two-level organizational approach, consisting of one, new converts to the faith, sometimes described as hearers of the word, and two, the elect, those initiates of the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, more mature, who were, quote, being perfected in love and knowledge, unquote, adhering to a stricter discipline that included vegetarianism. Some successors of Paul certainly did follow this twofold or two-tiered approach in their communities, including the part about the elect initiates adhering to a vegetarian diet. I personally suspect that Paul did too. The Hebrew Christians, however, did not have a two-tiered format, one for new converts or Gentile believers to have a transitional or grace period, and another for Jews more established in wisdom and knowledge. They only had the one level and ethical standard for all. But I think Paul had that mystery school two-tiered approach of hearers of the word, new converts, a looser ethical code for a while, and a stricter code for those more mature in the faith. I really think we can sign up Paul to the vegetarian cause, that he was organizing his group that way, and that was really at the heart of his dispute. He had a different way of doing things. Wouldn't be the first time someone had, gotten into some argument with others about how they wanted to do things or run their organization. I want to share about the biblical basis for vegetarianism. There have been vegetarian Jewish and vegetarian Christian denominations since the beginning of time, or at least the beginning of recorded history. And many of those, have had no knowledge of Gospel of Thomas, Gospel of the Ebionites, Gospel of the Hebrews, Clementine homilies. They've had no knowledge of those writings and yet still found a way in their own tradition, based on their own scriptures, to become vegetarian, to advocate vegetarianism and see it as the highest ideal of their faith. The biblical basis for vegetarianism. The Genesis ideal presented in the early chapters of the Hebrew Bible is vegetarian. the plant-based diet of Eden. Genesis 1:29. Behold, I have given you every seed-bearing herb which is upon the surface of the entire earth, and every tree that has seed-bearing fruit. It will be yours for food. Hebrew book of Genesis 1:29, a translation quoted at a vegetarian Kabbalah website. Only after the fall of man and post-flood phases begin is there meat eating according to Genesis.
Whoa, really?
Animal sacrifice.
Woo!
Quite often, spiritual movements advocating going back to Eden, re-entering a heavenly paradise, entering into a golden age, a millennium, a kingdom of heaven or kingdom of God, or mystical reunion with God, include vegetarianism as part of their spiritual path. From the beginning and across many centuries, there have always been vegetarian Jewish movements. The Nazarites, the Essenes, Sethians, Therapeutae, and many others. I have an article I can send you a link to called Meet the Children of the Dawn, the vegetarian Therapeutae movement within Judaism. The Therapeutae probably was a branch of Essenism in Alexandria, Egypt. Probably their connection goes back to the Essenes. A bit unclear, but they were very vegetarian. That part is clear, as there are descriptions of what they ate. I can send you the link. The Essenes were one of the three major branches of Judaism 2,000 years ago and predates Jesus and Christianity by at least a couple of centuries. During the first century AD, the Essenes were opposed to animal sacrifices being made in the Jerusalem temple, Jewish temple, and they were known to be vegetarians. The Essenes were the group that Jesus and the first Christians, the Ebionites, were closest to, sharing with them the same values, sacred texts. Unlike the Sadducees and Pharisees, the Essenes are never criticized in the New Testament. The Hebrew church was largely populated by Messianic Essenes that converted to the Jesus movement. This earlier Essene movement within Judaism adhered to a vegetarian diet and had also been opposed to animal sacrifice in the Temple of Jerusalem. That is the context within Judaism. The Essenes of Dead Sea Scrolls fame, the John the Baptist group, the Mandaean Gnostics, also known as the Nazareans or Nazari, and the Jesus movement had much in common and are related to each other. For instance, followers of the original Jesus movement are sometimes called Ebionites. But that term Ebionite also turns up in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Scholars continue to debate the exact nature of the relationship between these various related cousin groups. In any case, these groups shared many of the same values, scriptures, and spiritual beliefs. Stay tuned for more spiritual awakening after this break. A biblical basis for vegetarianism continued. A vegetarian ideal is described by the prophet Isaiah in the book of Isaiah of the Hebrew Scriptures, the Old Testament, chapter 11, verses 6 through 9. The prophecy described in the Hebrew Bible, the book of Isaiah, chapter 11, foresees a return to a vegetarian world like that described in the earliest chapters of the book of Genesis. Back to Eden, where the cow, bear, snake, and the children of humanity coexist in peace. For the Essene branch of Judaism of Dead Sea Scrolls fame, the book of Isaiah was a very central text. Many copies of it were discovered at the Essene Library of Qumran, the Dead Sea Scroll discovery. Isaiah was a favorite text of the Jesus movement as well, those Hebrew Christians, the Ebionites, along with another book known as the Ascension of Isaiah. author of the World Peace Diet, once told me in an interview that for the most of the last 2,000 years, those who have been either vegans or vegetarians have been given the nickname Pythagoreans until relatively recently in history, when it's like vegan and vegetarian got coined. Such has been the lasting legacy of Pythagoras upon the West. Though in the Greek world of antiquity, the Pythagoreans were a significant influence on many, were major voices and advocates of vegetarianism and discontinuing religious ritual animal sacrifices in various pagan temples, from passages like Genesis 1:29, Isaiah 11, Hosea 6:6, and others, one can understand why Jews and Christians during the late BC and early AD period could easily see a biblical basis for their vegetarianism. Indeed, since that time, there have been many Jewish and Christian groups that have advocated a vegetarian diet, seeing vegetarianism as the ideal in their own scriptural tradition, without any access to Clementine homilies or Gospel of the Hebrews, or importing teachings from some other religion or the philosophy of Pythagoras. In other words, they see it in their own biblical tradition. They see vegetarianism in their own scriptures. If the way of peaceful vegetarianism is the divine ideal, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, why put it off for millennia, relegating it to some faraway time in the deep, distant future? Why not follow the examples of the Essenes and Ebionites and Adventists and many others and step into this vegetarian ideal today? Hashtag assisting Isaiah. Hashtag back to Eden. Uncovering a vegetarian Jesus or Yeshua at the beginning of Christianity. This is a fascinating passage from St. Jerome, not considered to be a heretic or Gnostic, but an early church father. Hieronymus, also known as St. Jerome, said the consumption of animal flesh was unknown up until the Great Flood. But since the Great Flood, we have had animal flesh stuffed into our mouths. Jesus the Christ, who appeared when the time was fulfilled, again joined the end to the beginning, so that we now no longer are allowed to eat animal flesh. A very pro-vegetarian church father by the name of Hieronymus, also known as St. Jerome, apparently read the Gospel of the Hebrews and was influenced by the Ebionite point of view about vegetarian diet. Epiphanius, an early church father, quotes the Ebionite Gospel, finding in it a saying of Jesus, quote, "I have come to destroy the sacrifices," referring to the sacrifices in the Jewish Temple of Jerusalem. The Ebionite or Hebrew Gospel quotes Jesus as saying, "I have come to abolish the sacrifices." According to the Gospel of the Ebionites, Jesus also rejected the Passover meal. Quote, "I have no desire to eat the flesh of this paschal lamb with you," unquote. Keith Akers, in his book, Was Jesus a Vegetarian?, said, the dispute over vegetarianism in the early church shows that the leadership of the Jerusalem church was vegetarian. The latter history of Jewish Christianity indicates that Jewish Christianity was vegetarian and preserved this tradition of defending animals. Jesus' attack on the animal sacrifice business demonstrates that Jesus himself shared these views.
What?
In the New Testament Gospel of John, chapter 2, is described the famous account of Jesus driving out the money changers, overturning the tables of the money changers in the Jewish temple of Jerusalem. He also freed animals that were destined to be sacrificed, liberating cattle, sheep, and doves.
What?
Most people remember the part about Jesus overturning the tables of the money changers in the temple, but the pro-meat bias most have inherited makes it more difficult to get the significance of the anti-animal sacrifice, freeing the animals aspect of the story. Go and find out what it means by the scriptures that say, it is kindness that I want, not animal sacrifices. Jesus from Matthew chapter 9, referring to a passage from the Hebrew scriptures, Hosea 6:6. Finally, a saying of Jesus from Aramaic Luke, a vegetarian saying of Jesus in the old Syriac Aramaic manuscript of the Gospel of Luke, chapter 21. Be on guard so that your hearts do not become heavy with the eating of flesh and with the intoxication of wine and with the anxiety of the world. To receive a link to my article on vegetarianism and early Christianity, to receive a link to my article on the Therapeutae, the Jewish mystical group I referred to earlier, send an email to me at this address, james@spiritualawakeningradio.com, james@spiritualawakeningradio.com, or you can send a text message to me at this number, 508-603-9381. On next week's program, I'll pick up where I left off and we'll delve into the vegetarian references to the apostles, covering the apostles and lots more on part 2 next week. Tune in again next week at this same time for another edition of Spiritual Awakening Radio.
Woo! What's up, hard hat?
How you guys doing?
What up, dude? You there?
I think I made it.
Yeah, not much. Can you hear me?
Not really.
Hey, not really. Yeah, I'm fucking running my generator. I'm running my generator right
here, Braxton.
I'm running my generator, and I'm kind of in the foothills of the mountains, so you can't really hear.
We're in the same position. Do you hear us clear?
10-4.
Oh, okay. Braxton, you there?
Yeah. I'm getting caught up right now. A lot of technical difficulties.
Yeah, this is pretty bad.
We've got Zen manning my account right now, so and
what does everyone sound like in the I mean, what does yo chat, what does everyone sound like up here? Does it sound like crap?
Sounded pretty good on my end.
Yeah, you guys both sound like shit to us, though.
Oh.
Could just be us, though. Yeah.
You sound fine to me, though.
Okay, you guys are getting a little better.
Okay.
What's going on, Hard Hat? Where you been?
Not much. It's springtime up in China where I am, so I'm starting to do my concrete full time. So just kind of getting working and enjoying. My dog's 6 months now, so it's like every day is just awesome. But yeah, just been working. I'm out in the mountains here. I'm doing a job tomorrow. I got like 4 bars right now, but it goes in and out. But yeah, I don't know, man. I've been blessed with some miracles lately, but things are good. Fucking same old shit.
Yeah. We missed you last week. We had a vegan bodybuilder on that used to lift like 800 pounds or something.
Jeff, I'll be honest with you. I'd probably come up more, but there's a bit of guilt I feel inside. It's like going to a Alcoholic Anonymous meeting, but you're drinking. And so you kind of, you're around a bunch of sober people, but you're drinking. So you feel a bit awkward because you're not. And I mean, I'm still, I eat a lot of eggs, still a bit of chicken, but I mean, I still get my organic red meat. So I haven't switched, but I mean, again, I like animals and dogs more than humans, and I understand this other aspect of it, right? Like, I've seen the shit with cows, bonding with a human, and like they know they're getting like. So anyway, there's some guilt I feel, so I don't want to come up, but I like listening to you guys, and it's a process.
Did you say you're eating less meat?
Oh yeah, I've cut down on my meat. This is for quite a few years now, right? Like back
Yeah.
when I was bodybuilding, I was meat, but it's how it's come around with my animals, and I'm not in the killing and the farms and that. No, it's and again, I kind of talked about it on one of your shows. The meat I buy, these fucking cows roam on mountains, like acres and acres of mountains for their lives. But I mean, again, they get slaughtered, and again, like I see your guys' point, but I'm still eating probably twice a week red meat. So anyway, I feel guilty. So to come up on panel and stuff when you're with so anyway, that's enough. I'm done.
Hey man, you're making progress. That's what matters. I mean, we try not to lay the guilt on too heavy. It's kind of like a vegan group therapy, but we're trying to get people like on board with the message just in general, kind of helping people ease into it. We come in peace. This is crazy because Zen's like 20 feet away from me right now. So it's kind of a miracle that we're making this happen on the same internet connection.
Yeah, I'm in the foothills of the Rockies. Same thing. I got a job tomorrow out here, so my bars are going in and out. But it's fucking beautiful out here. It's nice to be here. I like getting outside of the city.
Yeah. It's being out here has been a completely different change of scenery and pace and everything. Out here with Jeffrey and Ellie and Zen, it's been wild. Also, pardon if there's some feedback. Is Zen?
Yeah, I'm muted on my end.
There's Zen. I don't know what happened to Jeffrey and Allie, but yeah, it's pretty
No,
nice
they
out here.
probably just had a bad connection, and they're gonna jump back in again, probably. But
yeah, it could be. Those are enjoying the scenery and everything, changing the seasons.
it's
good.
funny. I still have a beard, but I never grew a beard my whole life. I'm 50 now, and I look a lot different without a beard. But about 3 years ago, I started growing a beard because I'm doing a lot of outdoor work, and I'm up in China, so it's cold, right? And I just found it really keeps me warm because when you're outdoors for fucking 8-12 hours a day. But usually every spring equinox, I'll shave it. And I love it shaved. I love being clean shaven. I don't know, it feels good. But I don't know. It's I like the changing the seasons. I fucking love winter. I love spring. I love summer. Like the sun is I think there's a lot of benefits of being in the sun a lot. I think it gives you a lot of things we need. So I kind of like all seasons. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it just kind of depends on for me personally, I guess it just depends on like how ready you are for the season. Cause like, if I have the right clothes for it, I love winter. If I can just get out and play in the snow, but I'm also I'll admit I'm kind of a pansy when it comes to the cold. Like I think I'm supposed to be like warm blooded, like desert, even though I've had a couple little like almost heat stroke run-ins or couple like dehydration issues, I'm like starting to acclimate and feels good. Like I love the sun. I love everything about the scenery out here. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
Also,
I get really dark in the summer. I've been tanning since I was a child. I've traveled around the world. I love the sun. Yet with the winter, I understand what you're saying with the cold, but I grew up north of the 60th parallel, right? So sometimes you're dealing with 4 to 6 weeks of your guys' temperature is different, but minus 30 or 40, right? It's just dressing. It's dressing in layers, right?
Oh,
It's not, and then your exposed skin. But yeah, but again, if I was smarter when I was younger, I'd be living in the Caribbean right now. Like I fucking love the sun and the warmth.
Yeah. Especially that tropical climate. Like I'm sure I know I've heard like Florida can be a little rough with the humidity. Got Zen over here. We were hoping to do like the all of us on the same couch kind of a deal to be like, oh look, we got everybody together. But yeah, we've had a lot of technical difficulties.
It's weird because I'm in kind of Western Canada and it's dry here, right? Like it gets hot, but I don't have that humidity. If you go in Eastern Canada, you'll get that, but I don't. So it is nice, right? Like I've been in Thailand, I've been in Indonesia. I know that fucking you jump out of a shower, you dry yourself, and a minute later you're sweaty again, kind of. But it's nice here. That dry heat's pretty cool. Like it's not bad.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty nice. I took my first outdoor, like out in nature shower just yesterday. That was a little it was nice, like it was beautiful, the scenery and everything. I didn't have a towel, so I'm like using bandanas and stuff, like drying as soon as I get water on myself. So it was a little bit of a lesson. There's a learning curve to adjust into nature, but it's been really cool, especially the arid, like I don't know, something about this climate compared to like parts of Washington. It's got its own appeal for sure. And we're like an hour southwest of Vegas, I think, and I've never actually been aside from touching down in the airport. So a lot of exploring to do.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's neat country you're in. Now that I kind of understand, yeah, like it's the one thing I've always appreciated about Canada. I mean, the government's fucked. It's all fucked, right? But we have a lot of land here, and it still takes a bit to get up and away, but we have a lot of natural land here, and I guess you guys do too in the States. Like you have your built up fucking super populated sheep areas, but we have a lot of land here, a lot of lakes, a lot of forest. If you want to get the fuck out, you can, and it's nice, you know. Like you look at Europe, all the countries in Europe, they're so small. You know, I'm not sure. I'm ignorant, but I don't know if you want to get away and hide away, or you know what I mean, like just get in nature. It's not the same there.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of like kind of unexplored, uninhabited areas still out here. Like there's a decent amount of wildlands that like, I mean, even in like Washington, I mean, the area I used to live, it was probably about 10 minutes away from Seattle, but you could get lost in like dense, luscious, like forests, almost rainforest like climate. And it's just like really beautiful to just explore. I don't know, I do kind of miss those times, but nice to get the sunny, dry change up, I guess. Think we got Jeffrey and Allie coming back in, hopefully.
Yo, you hear me?
Yeah.
You guys hear me? Okay, cool. I guess I just can't turn my camera on because it. So usually we have really kick-ass internet, but all of a sudden today, our internet service provider is all like, "Oh, you're like outside your city area, and we're gonna cut off your unlimited internet that you usually have, and just cut you off and set you to 0." So we're using Zen's hotspot, and it's like yeah, we're barely getting by here, but it sounds like this is the best we've had it. Hard Hat's been so Hard Hat's been coming through kind of rough on our end. Did you say you've been eating less meat? Hard Hat's frozen with the thumbs up.
No. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. I'm the same. I've been like this for 3 or 4 years, where basically maybe once or twice a week I'll have my red meat. I do have chicken probably a couple times a week, and then a lot of eggs. And I've been like that, right? And I remember when I first kind of hooked up with you or whatever a year and a half ago, and then following more and more. I have a lot of guilt, right? Like with me liking animals and dogs more than humans, and I understand your guys' perspective, right? But anyway, I still am, right? And so then I kind of have a guilt. I don't want to come up on panel. I like watching and stuff like that. But I was saying, I don't know if you heard this, but hey, look at those two fuckers. Hey, but I have a lot of guilt. I was saying it's like going to a AA meeting if you're drinking, right? So you're drinking and everyone's sober and you kind of feel you're all, hey, but you're different. So anyway, that's cool. Hey guys, that's fucking awesome. I'm not allowed in the States. I can't because of my past legal stuff, but man, I'd love to come down and fucking chill, but that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, you're always more than welcome here because, like, it's, you know, we try not to judge too harshly. We keep it pretty open-minded. We're just trying to have good conversations and everything here. I think I'm about to possibly make a change of production move real quick. Just a second. Oh, wait. Actually, be back in one moment.
I think everyone's sitting in the mountains tonight, and nobody has. I'm at like 4 bars, so I'm doing good for now. But yeah, you know, it's funny. It says 5 fucking G, and they're pushing all this high energy stuff at us. Yet everyone's still having a hard time getting good connections and stuff. So I don't know. I think it might be a conspiracy theory or something. Possibly not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I should jump into chat. I don't actually ever look at chat when I'm on a panel.
You there, bro? You there? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. 10-4.
Yeah. So we had a former bodybuilder vegan on last week, and I was just like, I was bummed you weren't there because you guys kind of had the same story ish. But he used to lift like 800. He said he used to squat 800.
Did he ever talk about if he used anabolics for what he was doing?
He said he was full natty, but he's a pretty big dude. He's 6 foot, and like his arm, like he doesn't work out anymore, but his arms are still bigger than Braxton.
This is what sucks is I wish I was there. And I mean, I know he's a good guy, and I'm sure he's a good guy, but when I talk to someone, because I lived in the gym since I was 15 until I was about 27 when the party started. But I always can weed through the guys, and I could look at someone and I know if you've done cycles, right? So anyway, if he's a vegan bodybuilder, I think that's great. But I don't really like these guys that cry that they're clean or whatever, because I can look at someone and I know. Yeah. But anyway, not to be negative. I'm sure he's good. I wish I would have been there. Yeah, sorry.
No, he doesn't lift anymore because he's got ankle issues. But he's been high carb vegan for quite a while. And because he's a big dude, you know, he's had, you know, it hasn't been as easy as it is for me to keep the weight, sustain the weight. And he's very honest about his experience doing the high carb vegan thing. But he went from 409 to like 290 after going raw. I think he was raw for a while, but he kind of he dabbles in all of them. But he's doing the rice diet right now, which was a diet that I had told you about in the past. That was it's been proven to reverse diabetes and stuff like that. Braxton knows a lot about it. Yeah, Dr. Kempter, Dr. Walter Kempner, he's a badass. But yeah, Kyle,
Yes,
you there, bro?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Holy
See me?
shit! Glad to finally meet you. We've had the greatest internet and such good stuff up until today, and then like we're kind of piggybacking off some stuff, but yeah. So me.
There goes the internet.
Yeah, it's funny. I haven't, what Jeff was just talking about, I haven't been in a gym in probably 20 years now, neither. Now it's just kind of your diet and what you're eating. But you kind of, when you're younger, I guess, you build that structure or whatever structure you have, whatever you're doing. So,
Your
I mean,
base.
yeah, everyone says, oh, you're kind of big in this, but it's actually no. But I'm a tradesman, right? So I work every day.
Yeah.
I'm
Constantly
walking
lifting.
and that's right. So it's, but still, it really is about your diet. And that's kind of, well, why I like Jeff. I kind of met Jeff year and a half ago on another panel, and really liked him and his girl and the talking and that. And then they kind of left that panel. But yeah, it was interesting. He's a vegan and kind of because I'm not sure I love animals more than humans, right? And
I agree.
I'm not down on all the killing, and I understand that aspect, but I'm still a couple times I get organic red meat. I know where anyway, I keep justifying it, but I've seen it. I drive out there. These cows are walking on mountains for their whatever years they're living. But the thing is I also know like I just got a new dog. He's 6 months old. I mean, when you're gonna get fucking slaughtered, right?
Yeah.
And these guys know, and so I don't know. I still have a big guilt and stuff, but I like coming here.
I became aware about 5 years ago about the vibrational quotient of farm factory animals. And I've kind of delved into that a little bit. And I think that's a valid point that most people will discount out of hand, but I think it's valid. In fact, I know it is.
Yeah, they've done some interesting studies about the areas around factory farms too, and how crime will go up and domestic violence will go up and suicide will go up whenever they put in a factory farm in a place where it wasn't before.
That's interesting.
But
Doesn't
yeah,
surprise me.
Go ahead.
Doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, am I coming through clear?
Yeah,
And Braxton's got the best phone service, obviously. So Chris Hines is in the house, man. He's in the States right now. Holy shit. Well, cool. Hard Hat, thanks for coming by. I'm closing down the open part of the show for a little bit because me and Kyle got to talk about something. But it was good to see you. I'm so glad you're taking steps. And come back next week, or we'll be on later too if you're still. I mean, obviously you can watch too, but me and Kyle are gonna kind of talk about some non-vegan stuff for a while.
Yeah.
No, this is cool. I'm gonna this is interesting. I'm gonna watch, and if I'm still up and you're going, I'll jump on. But I got an early morning too with my work, but we'll see. I'm watching. Thanks a lot, guys. Right on.
Yeah. Thanks, Hard Hat. Peace. Catch you later, buddy. So
everything,
Kyle,
everything good. Everything 5x5 here.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that cannot. Yeah, shut that off. Uh-oh. There we go. So yeah, so me and Kyle have been talking for years, really. The past I made a couple videos a few months ago, interviewing some people that were involved with Barry Cooper, who's a YouTuber that is a former cop, and he teaches you how not to get busted and stuff like that. And but I've heard a lot of stories, and I've had a couple interactions with the guy, and it's just the dude just doesn't seem like a cool person. And then especially after watching the two interviews, um, it's been pretty shocking to hear what they had to say. And I know Kyle has a lot more to say than the last two people that were on. And Kyle just kind of wants to get this over with and get this out. And you know, it's been a couple years, but
It's been a long time coming.
I'll hand it over to you.
All right. Well, I don't know where to start really, but I mean, if your audience has already seen the other videos, I guess, then they kind of have a
treat it as if they haven't seen them.
All right.
Treat it as if they haven't seen them.
Well, so I met Barry actually at a preparedness conference, con in like 2001, 2002, somewhere right around there in Kansas City. But it was just briefly backstage. You know, at the time he was making the Don't Get Busted videos, or they had just been, and you know, he was like selling VHS tapes actually at the con. And we just met briefly. Later, he didn't remember this or claimed not to remember it. You know, whatever. You know, I met him for 5 minutes, but I always like kind of knew about him. You know, I was aware of him. And, you know, I honestly, he was kind of a hero, you know, like for what he was doing at the time, you know, like to me, you know, being a voluntarist and, you know, liberty minded, you know, I thought it was awesome, you know, and I watched some of those videos. I'd learned stuff from him myself, and I thought he was coming from an honest and, you know, place of like real integrity, you know, at least it seemed, you know, and it seems that way from afar. So jump ahead to 2016. I'm heavily involved in the Anarchapulco you know, voluntarist movement. So I'm aware of Barry, and he, you know, he reached out to me through Facebook and was just like, hey, you know, we're building this team, and then your name keeps coming up as like a solid guy, and, you know, not very knowledgeable and business minded, and, you know, and I was like, oh, you know, I was just flattered, you know, and I later, you know, realized that it's kind of like what he does is, you know, he is very good at like buttering you up, you know, like telling you what you need to hear or want to hear. So I, you know, started talking to him, and, you know, he was like, hey, you know, I'm opening this trip to wellness in Puerto Vallarta, and I want to open multiple things and on multiple continents. And I kind of looked at his analytics and his clout score and stuff, and, you know, it wasn't, you know, spectacular, but it was enough that there was a business there. You know, there was an opportunity there, you know, it just needed the right person to tie it together. And, you know, Barry, by his own, I mean, that's not Barry, but by his own accord at that time, he was, you know, up front and that, like, hey, I'm not the guy that can do all the logistics, you know, like, I'm the face, you know, I'm the guy, you know, I'm Barry Cooper, you know, I need somebody to come do the behind the scenes stuff. I was like, that's perfect, because I don't want to be the guy, you know, I don't want to be, you know, I don't want to be Barry Cooper or, you know, Jeff Berwick or, you know, Larkin Rose, you know, I'm not, you know, fucking Kokesh, those guys. Like, I don't need to be famous, you know?
Yeah.
So
you're a normal, you know, human being.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been doing DMT for 20 years and ayahuasca and, you know, peyote, and, you know, really pushing the boundaries of, you know, I'm way past ego death, you know, so, but I like my anonymity, you know, anyway. And I just don't care about that, you know, but come in and work behind one of those guys. Sure. You know? And, so he, you know, basically hey, I got a spot for you. You can run the show, and here's what I want to do. And I need you to come down to Vallarta and ASAP, Then he found out that my wife, who you already interviewed, Lisa Bowman, was a professional level writer, an editor, and that's kind of what she does. And so he was like, oh, she can do content on the website, and you guys are going to have to move down here anyway. It just works out. I'll hire her too. And then later I hired Max kind of in my capacity as his manager for that brief time. And I brought Max down there, who you also did a video with, who's a friend of ours from here. And then, it just, I said, all right. And then, right away, the red flags started, but like, I put together a real good pitch deck and plan, and I broke Trip to Wellness up into 3 categories. But I was working with the information that Barry gave me of that he had rented an old hospital and down there and had a staff of doctors and nurses on staff and had a fleet of vehicles and a war chest with like 60 grand in it. And, had all these assets that in fact, none of this turned out to be true, but I didn't know that, at the time. So it was like, I just took his word for it. I had to take his word for it, and, so, we got excited about it. And then with his, I put together a plan that was, very profitable, and but in the same way, completely ethical and legal and like, helping people and providing a service, and he was, appeared to be all on board, but then he was just rushing like, oh, we need to launch this immediately. Like, and I told him, look, to sell my house,
This is before you went to Mexico?
Yeah, this is January of 2017. And he wanted me and Lisa to sell our house, all our possessions, and move down there in like 2 weeks. And I'm like, look, dude, I can maybe get down there by July, August, best case scenario, And he was like, I need you down here yesterday, just rah, like a drill sergeant almost,
Yeah.
And I just chalked it up to, and he kept alluding to, when I pressed him on it, he would allude to like, well, I've got all these other business deals riding on me having this set up by a certain time frame. And so I was like, all right, again, I got to take him at his word. He wasn't uber specific, but I knew of some stuff. And, he always had, that's the thing about Barry is he always has a story for whatever you try to press him on. And he's very good at making it sound reasonable, possible, to the point where you'll go, oh yeah, that could, without pressing it. If you don't know him, of course, if you know him, you're not going to deal with him. But anyway, so then, I told him, look, we'll work on it. And Lisa actually started working from Denver for him before we even moved there. She started doing content editing on the website and, wrote most of his website and edited all of it. And, and he was like, just keep track of your time. We'll reimburse you. But then right out the get-go, he needed money. So, he hires me and he supposedly has $60,000 in the bank and he needs me to send him money, like $5,000,
Wait a minute.
Yeah, right out the gate.
Holy shit, dude.
And I was just like, look, I'm trying to do all this stuff. Like, I don't have that liquid right now just to send you. I'm like, what do you need it for? And why do you need it? And and I can't remember now because so much, and this was, like I said, this is like maybe March 2017 now. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was a lame excuse that didn't make sense, aside from the fact that you've already said you have 60 grand in a bank account, so that kind of got blown off. I didn't send it. I did later give him a bunch of money, but after we got down there. But then he sent this weird sex questionnaire, which, I know you and I've talked about briefly. I mentioned it and I have it in an email account. I haven't found it yet, but it's there. I'll find it and get it to you to post with this. but it was, you know, everybody talks about the Kokesh one that he did with what's her name? I forget her name. And this was creepier than that. You know, it wanted to know about me and Lisa's sex life and like what positions we liked. Did you like? I mean, it was that.
Holy shit.
And so I had to message him and be like, hey, listen, you know, and he's like, oh, well, me and Candy, Mike's wife, were swingers, and I thought you and Lisa had an open relationship. And I said, no, like, you misunderstood. We had to talk about, like, you know, an open relationship in the context of, from the liberty part of it, being that I don't tell her what to do, she doesn't tell me what to do, but from a liberty standpoint. But it was a hypothetical, you know, concept. You know, it was like, out of that, he took, all he got was that me and Lisa were swingers and that we were going to swing with him and his girl, Mia.
Wow.
And I'm like, that's not going to happen at all. You know, I was like, one, it wouldn't happen. Two, we wouldn't do that with someone we work with, you know, like, three, it's not going to happen. You know, like, it was just like hard stuff, like, no. And so he was like, okay. You know, and that kind of got blown over. Then he said the next one was, a couple weeks later, it was he gave me a call to be like how excited he was that I was coming and going to help him and what an asset I was going to, you know, it was just this big butter up thing. And that I had, you know, he had asked around about me and I had checked out, and he pulled my military record, and, you know, it was solid. And here's the thing, he can't pull my military record. Like, and not like it's classified.
Okay, so that's a big red flag, obviously.
You just can't, civilians can't just pull anyone's military record. In fact, funny story, true story, in 1999, I got escorted by St. Louis police out of the National Archive Center trying to get my own military records over in St. Louis. I couldn't get my own. They trespassed me from the building. So, you know, and it's just a known thing, like, you know, and if you later know, Barry's ability to do anything on the internet is that of like a 12-year-old in 2006. You know, like he can't, even if there was a way, he couldn't figure it, you know? So then there was that red flag. And then I just brushed that off. I'm like, oh, that's just, yeah, he is a little fucking white lie right there, but he's just, that's his way of saying like he approves, or, you know, what, you know what I mean? Like, I just kind of made an excuse for him, you know? So then like a week later, 2 weeks later, you know, it was like April 2017. I wanted to fly down there, and I'm like, hey, I'm moving my family down here. You know, Lisa had been to Cancun. I'd been to like Nuevo Laredo and like, you know, I don't know, Tijuana a bunch of times, but I'd never been that deep in Mexico. You know, Lisa had been to Cancun for like a spring break thing when she was in high school or something. But it's like, hey, I'm moving down there. I want to come, you know, and I'd had multiple friends that lived in Vallarta, and I knew, you know, kind of how it was, but it's like, and he was adamant that I don't fly down there. And I was like, look, I'll just come down for the weekend. I'll just stay in a hotel, you know, what's the big deal, you know? And he just like flipped out, like kind of, and like it kind of got to the point where he kind of like threatened me, like as my boss, like, you know, like as your boss, I'm telling you no, like, you're not, don't come down here, you know, for, you know, I'm like, all right. And that was a huge red flag. And now, had I flown down there for the weekend, none of this following story, this saga I'm about to, you know, that we're just in the friggin', we're just in the beginning stages of it. It wouldn't have happened, because I would have figured out within an hour that dude was a fraud, a total fraud, you know. Because I figured out when I finally met him 3 months later and was down there, I figured out within the first hour that dude was a total liar and it was total fraud, and we were in fucking trouble at that point. You know, so he was, you know, there was that, and then there was him asking me and Lisa to invest, you know, needing the money, and then asking us to invest and become partners, you know, and put a bunch of money in. And I'm like, look, if you got 60 grand and we're operating out of Mexico, and this is a mostly online presence, and you already have this like old resort / hospital with staff, you know, oh, and that's the other thing. He said he had like a fleet, and whatever a fleet means to you in number wise, of blacked out brand new SUVs, Mercedes AMGs to ferry around,
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
He told me the Justin Bieber had just come down and done ayahuasca with him, and he picked him up AMG,
Yeah, right.
Barry didn't own a vehicle,
Yeah.
vehicle,
A single
none,
vehicle.
a
Yeah.
single vehicle of any kind.
But you figure he's probably just
but-
bullshit. Like he just knows someone who might have trucks or that pick people up, and he's just so
yeah, maybe, or he
like
rents
a
them.
mild red flag.
Yeah, or well, maybe he rents them. Yeah, well, no, I'm just like, but if you have all these assets and you have this liquid cash, and we're in Mexico, and I'm doing it from I'm over here going like, wait a minute, here's our operating cost, here's our I can break it down to daily cost, I'm like, we don't need another fucking 50 grand or 40 grand, whatever. I think he asked us for like 48 grand. He's like, well, I'll make you full partners, and I'm like, but it just doesn't make any sense. Where's the 48 grand going to go or whatever, what's it going to go to? Like,
it's a lot of money in Mexico,
and I wonder now if he was like going to take, like, had I just blindly sent him a check, like, I wonder if he was going to like take my money and hurry up and go buy like a Mercedes AMG and, like rent a resort and like hire a bunch of, like try to like make his lie real or something,
Yeah.
So, he keeps pressuring us. We get our shit, house sold, everything. Fire sold my house right before the market went through the roof here. Took a fucking bath on it.
Yeah.
But we were just like, like, had he followed my model and let me do my job, I could have made $5 million a year within 5 years with that. What we were going to do, So I was just like, oh, this is, I'm sacrificing right now, but it's going to come back to me. That was my mindset. So we fly down there. We worked with his buddy George, this like fake cartel member, just this, like, I don't even know how to describe him. Like, I'm not even trying to be like, I'm not trying to be critical because I've like got sour grapes, because the truth is, and maybe I should say this up front, I'm not going to cut any corners here, but there was a point where I'd have punched Barry in the face had I seen him again. And then there was a point where I was bitter about it, but that was a long time ago now, and now I just feel sorry for the dude, like he's a damaged individual, and it's just sad that he just has he has a mentality of like a 12-year-old, like with a mean streak, and he's got obviously a lot of problems that he's acting out on. And you just can't tell him nothing. His ego is just, driving the car, and it's just sad. It's sad for him, it's sad that instead of, he could easily genuinely help people and provide really help people and make a decent living doing it. And instead he chooses to scam people and steal their money and break their hearts and ruin their lives. And because in his damaged juvenile way of thinking, it's like, that's him winning, that's him, he's getting over on life, like that's how he thinks of it. Like, it's fucking sad, it's a sad way to live. And that's, like why he's, a meth addict, and he abuses little boys, and, like he's just acting out massive, deep problems. And it's too bad, so when I'm, disparaging in this or whatever, I'm not trying to be super critical out of sour grapes. It's just case in point. And, his buddy George was kind of like his concierge, for lack of, just to give you an idea. And George is this Mexican dude, like pretended he was in the cartel. He was never in the cartel. And I know that for a fact, but he was, he's a big dude for Mexican, he kind of jacked. He had a lot of tats and stuff. He had purposely got like some cartel like tats to like intimidate people. He looked intimidating. He was really a buster, but that's, but he was just like Barry's little gopher, basically. And, Barry hosed him too in a big way. But at the time, but then Barry, was like, hey, get with George. George is going to set you up with a place to live and all this stuff. So we're trusting it. We're sending George all this stuff. We later find out that George went to the landlord of the first place that he got us approved to live at, like this apartment we had rented until we got our house. It was like a condo downtown. And we talked to the landlord, and the landlord's like, yeah, I was really renting this place for like $800 a month. George told you $1,600 and he pockets the other $800. And he like intimidated me into going along with it. And then later when I confronted George about it, he was like, oh, Barry told me to do that. Barry told me it was okay. I'm like, and he's like, and plus also he's just like, this is Mexico. It's like what we do. It's like we work a deal in for ourselves. And I'm like, and also like we had given him like $2,500 for the deposit. The real deposit was like $1,500, and he just pocketed that $1,000, So anyway, we fly down on July 5th, 2017. And George picks us up. Barry was going to pick us up from the airport. He got sick the night before. We later found out from partying, but, sick. And George picks us up in like maybe a 1988 Mercury Mountaineer that had no air and barely ran. I mean, it had holes in the floorboards. I mean, it was all rusted out. It probably had 400,000 miles on it. I mean, I don't know how it was running. It had no muffler. I mean, it was just beat, and I'm just like, well, and then as he's driving with him and some like hooker in the front, there was like his girlfriend, and we're in the back with our cats and me and Lisa and all our luggage, and it's like 105 in the shade, 100% humidity. It's July 5th, this thing is just stifling. The windows don't roll down. They've got this cheap like tint on them. I mean, this thing looks like you couldn't from Central Casting in Hollywood find it, but if you just think beater car, like just piece of shit jalopy, and then we're driving across town from the airport, and George proceeds to tell me that he picks up all Barry's like customers from the airport in his vehicle. So that was the blacked out Mercedes AMG. It was like an 86 Mercury Mountaineer. It was literally, you could see through the floorboards. Like me and Lisa were watching the whole road in Vallarta, it's like not bricks, it's like cobblestone, and cement. And so we were just looking at each other like, what the F, And he was like, yeah, Barry couldn't come. He sent me, blah, blah, blah. And so he takes us over, introduces us to the landlord, get our keys, get in there, everything. That was on I think, as I recall, it was a Friday. So next day comes, no Barry, he's sick. Next day comes, no Barry, he's still sick. Monday comes, we don't even hear from him, Now, right when we moved down there, one of our cats got sick, so we were kind of dealing with that, and we're just kind of overwhelmed, and then Max flew down the next day, which was Tuesday. So it's like we've been down there 4 days, and we still haven't met Barry. He hasn't come to our place. We had, whatever. That went all the way till Friday. And every day it was us. It was me calling Barry's phone, and Barry couldn't come to the phone for some reason. And Mia was like, oh, he's sick. Oh, his ex-wife called and is like, suing him or trying to have him arrested, or, his check from the movie company bounced, which I later found out was this guy, Evan, who was just paying him out of his pocket for the rights to his life. And he ripped him off for like 80 grand. And actually I got his book right here, like this book that he's all like 700 pages of it. I can't get in the camera there. That is Evan's book that's going to come out. This is, and it is going to blow the lid off Barry Cooper as a con artist, because it's like there's like 10 years in there of him just lying and ripping Evan off and ripping everybody he comes in contact with off, and it's detailed. It's crazy. I just read it. It's bonkers. Like, you think anybody had a hard time, wait till you hear his story. Anyway, yeah, he's a guy. He's like a artist from Toronto, from Canada. I don't. Anyway, I'll let him tell the story. I don't want to get too into it, but so yeah, Barry just wouldn't like show up, like he wouldn't like, and I was just like, what is going on, and I had heard he was kind of eccentric, like, and I'd heard that he was just, a little weird, little off, and obviously in the 6 months prior to dealing with him, that had come through in some ways, so I just kind of chalked it up, whatever. Finally, Friday comes and he calls and he's like, sorry, blah, this, that, the other thing, all these. I'm like, yeah, whatever, let's, he's like, yeah, me and Mia want to take you and Lisa to dinner, come to dinner and meet us at this restaurant. And it was on the beach over here. So we sit in this restaurant and we're supposed to be there at 6. We're there at 6, 7, 8, 9, no Barry. Finally, and I'm talking to Mia and she's like, oh, he's in the shower. Oh, he's like getting dressed. Like, oh, he was on the phone with his daughter, like, sorry, we're just running late, 3 hours. Like finally I look on Google Maps and I realized that his house, he picked this restaurant, it was like, oh, I'm taking you to this great restaurant, blah, blah. Really, it was right in front of his house. It was where he lived in Fluvial. It was, you walk across this couple of streets. It was like 5 blocks from his house and he was right at the beach. So I was just like, fuck that. So I tell Mia, I'm like, we'll be there in 5 minutes. Me and Lisa are just going to walk over to your house. And she's like, no. And I just hung up. And she, and now I'm like, now we're like, as we're walking over there, we're like, what is going on? Like, and so we get over there. Mia answers the door. She lets us in. She's like, Barry's upstairs. Now understand, she's been telling us for 3.5 hours, that Barry's getting ready, taking a shower, combing his hair, with fucking putting his cologne out, whatever the fuck, shaving, and it's like, hey, we're not rock stars. Like, this isn't a photo shoot. Like, I don't care. Like, and then so we get there and he's still getting ready upstairs. We're there maybe 90 more minutes to the point where now it's like from 6 o'clock, it's like 10:30 at night. I haven't even seen the guy. I'm in his living room, and he told me the house he told me it was a third, it was just a random house in Fluvial. He told me he had this drug dealer's mansion or cartel members, Hefe's mansion. And it was, had all these floors and different wings and it was huge, it was just a basic Mexican house, it wasn't nothing special. And in fact, it was kind of just run as far as Mexican houses in that area in Fluvial, which was a nicer suburb where a lot of expats lived. It wasn't that nice, and then it was just a hodgepodge of this, like if somebody picked all their furniture randomly up on the side of the road, like none of it matched and it was all very gross, like not nice. The only nice thing he had was his computer, everything else was just not, like his couch smelled bad, and so we're just sitting there and being polite. And Mia is flustered as fuck. Like you can tell she's like making, like all these excuses and all this, like, oh, I'm Barry's blah, blah, blah. And she would run upstairs every like 20 minutes for like 5 minutes and come back down like, oh, he's almost ready. Finally, Barry makes his grand fucking entrance down the staircase with his shirt off, of course, like, and just peacocking, with these fucking bedazzled jeans on and this big belt buckle and his southern drawl. And I was just like, and then he comes down, he shakes my hand. I look him in the eyes and he's spun. I can tell right away. I've been doing recreational drugs for like 20 years. I've been around all of it. Like he's spun, I could tell right away. And I was just like, oh, okay. All right. And then he told me later he was on acid and he was just, he was spun on meth, he was fucked up. I figured it was either coke or meth, and again, I don't care, but it's like, and then later come to find out that's exactly what he was doing, and then one of the first things he said to me after we introduced me and Lisa, he shakes our hands or whatever, is he's standing in his kitchen and he starts mixing a drink immediately. Now understand that he also told me that in the 6 months prior to us coming down there, he had done Ibogaine and he had quit drinking because he had been a borderline alcoholic, and he completely quit drinking as a result of doing ibogaine treatment over 4 days. Supervised ibogaine trip, which resets your neural pathways to birth. So it literally erases your addiction impulse. So right away, he's as he's standing there just jabbering, he grabs this bottle of like cheap Mexican scotch and like this thing of Coke, and starts mixing this 30-ounce tumbler of this with ice of this giant scotch and Coke, and just starts chugging it. And I'm like, all right, so much for I don't drink anymore. He's a massive alcoholic. Of course, he never did ibogaine. Folks, if you haven't figured out, Barry Cooper lies. Everything that comes out of his mouth is a lie. I don't even know if his name's Barry Cooper. Honestly, I was surprised if it was not something else. But so then we're standing there, and then he's like, he just looks at me, he's like, I didn't think you guys had come. And that right there was when I'm like, dude, you've been pressuring me for like 8 months to sell all my possessions and move to Puerto Vallarta to be your manager of your multi-tiered, multi-country business. And then when I moved down there, you dodged me for a week because you didn't think I'd come. Like, what the fuck? And right away, I put it all together in like milliseconds. It was like, oh, this is all a lie. Like, there is no 60 grand in the bank, fleet of AMGs, hospital with staff. He didn't do ibogaine. He's not this dude's a con artist, like, fuck, and right away we were fucking like, fuck, but then I was like, well, we're here, and maybe, we can work it out, and what choice do we, so I just, I wanted to punch him in the face, but then I just, well, that ain't going to do anything, and we're down there. We don't know anyone down there, we don't have anything else to do. So it was like, fuck, dude, we are stuck, so we just, just hung out that night, and just, he just proceeded to get shit house drunk and, rant and rave about, and all, when you're around Barry, like, there's no like mutual conversation or whatever. You can get some shit in edgewise here and there, but really it's just him drunk and high with his shirt off, peacocking around, telling you how great he is and all his accomplishments. And now, he was best, everything he does, he's the Michael Jordan of, and, the whole world's against him, and, all the haters, and, all his enemies, and it's, all his enemies are wrong and just haters that are just jealous of how great he is. It's 2 or 3 hours of him just screaming that at the top of his lungs, walking around, just strutting around, just chugging alcohol. And then later, as he gets to know you and gets comfortable in front of you, he'll smoke meth or whatever right in front of you, which, it also should be noted here that I'm not anti any drugs, if you can do them and handle them, more power to you, but it's like, he's not a recreational user of drugs. He's an addict of whatever he does, whatever it is. So we went home, and then, on that was a sobering Uber ride home for me and Lisa. We were like, fuck, and then we get back and we had to tell Max that, oh, by the way, now Max is a young dude with, he's just rolling the dice. He didn't have nothing to lose, and he didn't have to be down there. He stuck it out with us for the most part. And we give him a ton of credit for that. But, it was like, fuck, dude, I couldn't just turn around. And that's the thing. It cost us like almost 50 grand to move, international move, with all our stuff and our animals and everything, And then on top of that, we didn't get actual visas. And, because Barry was like, oh, just do it this way. And then later come to find out we couldn't work, and that fucked us, and I actually knew that, but again, moving down there, I didn't think that was going to be an issue because I didn't think I was not going to have a job, So we go home, we get this other house, like maybe a week later. Barry encourages us to get this ridiculous house that was I think it was the house he wanted that he couldn't afford. you know. And keep it in mind, at the time, Lisa did have like a backup job online that she made, I don't know, 50 grand a year at, maybe, you know, that she could still do. But then the problem is you get down to Mexico, and ironically, depending on where you are in Mexico, you might have fiber internet that is like bonkers fast, faster than any internet I've ever had in the United States. Or you might be across the street and not be able to get any internet at all, unless you get a cartel member or a pirater to like illegally string it to your house, which is what we had to do, actually. And then the internet will be amazing until there's a hurricane or a rainstorm in Guadalajara or whatever, and the whole grid will go down there for like a week. And in Mexico, nothing gets done or fixed fast.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like, oh, the power's out. You don't need power? Well, we'll get around to it, you know, when we get around to it, you know, and it might be like that. Several times the power went out while we were there, and it was out for 8-10 days. And it was just
in
like,
Nicaragua, we call it Nika time. They get it done in Nika time because it's like you hire someone, they come back 2 weeks later and start the project.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. You know, like there's no, and even bribing them a ton to motivate will only get you to like a glacial speed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, when you give them money, they go and spend it before they do.
Yeah. You know, no, I learned that lesson with the Mexicans down there. If you try to be nice and give them a ton of money, it will work against you because they will go get fucked and disappear for a week.
I mean, that's not, you know, this is obviously a generalization. That's not
huge,
all Mexicans, but
huge generalization. Know. But
yeah,
there's a group of them down there that they like to party. Anyway, and you know, I would too if I had to live there my whole life because it's brutal. But
it's seriously brutal, and then the alcohol is so cheap, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, Corn Islands is dope.
It's honestly, alcohol is cheaper to get than drugs, and you get better quality, you know. So that's why, and it's weird, and that's the other thing too that you know. And another thing, Barry's like, oh, you moved down here, drugs are legal, and then. Well, one, they're not legal, really. Two, the average Mexican can't access good drugs because of the peso being so weak against the dollar. The cartel won't sell real drugs in Mexico because it's a loss of revenue.
Oh, for pesos or even for dollars or just for dollars though? Well,
they have to take pesos in Mexico. Well, you know, they don't have to, but they have to.
Yeah.
And it's not like, you know, selling, let's say, a gram of Coke. Well, that'd have to be like 3,500, you know, or something pesos. I don't know whatever the exchange rate is at the time, pesos to get like, you know, maybe like what they could get in the States, maybe like a bill 20 or whatever for a good gram of Coke, you know, depending on whatever it is, where it is. So they can't sell it for that. They would have to sell it for like under 1,000 pesos. So they'd be losing like 80% of that profit, you know, so they look at it. It's from a business standpoint, like from a revenue standpoint, it doesn't make sense. So what Mexicans get is just like garbage. It's like it's mostly it's weird. It's weird to say this, but it's true. Like I later, as we get into the story,
better in LA.
Yeah, I later worked for the cartel down there, so I know this firsthand. You know, like I mean, like I literally sat with the area jefe, and he told me like they allow the Chinese triads to like ship like local drugs in for the Mexicans. Ew. So if you're a local in Vallarta, somewhere around there, Guadalajara, whatever, in New Generations area right there, like if you do street drugs, you're probably doing stuff that's from China. It's not. It's not from.
It's not from Colombia.
No, it's not from. Yeah, it's not. All of everything that they get, they send to the States or Canada or Europe. Yeah, because it's where they can get the most money.
Yeah.
Okay. And you know, that's another thing. Barry said that he had permission from the area jefe to operate his business, which you do have to have. And that was not true. And that's something that they'll kill you for.
Yeah.
Ultimately. I literally take you out in the jungle and put 2 in the back of your head. You know, not right off the bat, But if you persist in doing business without their say so.
So Barry led you down there into a pretty dangerous, ominous situation.
I mean, that was a bad lie to tell, because that could have, had things went differently and we started running and making a bunch of money, and I started blindly promoting that, like you do on the internet, like, hey, look at where we got this rock star resort where you can come and do drugs for, medicinal, recreational, or spiritual purposes, in Mexico. And, we got all, there's, you can't fart in Puerto Vallarta without the cartel knowing that you're doing it.
Yeah.
Like you don't make a bunch of money. You don't do anything and without their say so and or giving them their cut. It's just, that's just the way it is. They are the de facto government of that town. And what a lot of people don't know, I guess, if you didn't live in Mexico and work for the cartel, is that Puerto Vallarta is the #1 revenue generator for Mexico for tourism of all their resort areas. And it's kind of like Switzerland for the cartels. All the like Sinaloa and the other cartels family members all live in Vallarta and can walk around Vallarta, and it's like a no fire zone for them. It's like a neutral. It's like a Switzerland. It's like, hey, if you're in Vallarta, nobody's gonna fuck with you. We see you
tourism.
Over here, we're gonna slit your throat and murder your family. But if you're here, everybody's safe. It's kind of like, so they can all go there and know that there's no problem. But it's inside New Generation's area, and New Generations kind of governs it. So, but that's a real thing. And but that doesn't mean they don't still run the area for themselves. And they do,
Okay,
and
so you moved into this house that Barry wanted. So he had you move in,
and he was like, I was like, hey, this is way more than we want to pay, the idea, me and Lisa were like, we're down in Mexico. We want to take advantage of the disparity in the dollar and save money back, because we just spent $70,000 getting down here. Like threw away a ton of fucking money to get here. I don't want to
holy shit. Yeah.
I don't want to overextend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he was like, no, it's going to be smart for the business, and and then now here's the one thing. And you know what? I actually have a video that I can send you of a walkthrough of our house, and I will, and you can post it maybe if you want to.
No, you sent me a bunch of stuff. I think you sent me that.
I might have.
Yeah.
But because this house was fucking spectacular. And once I understood that Barry didn't have any accumens, he didn't have any facilities, I agreed to it, because this house had its own courtyard. It was in the best part of town, but still centrally located, out in the woods. Yeah. And it had its own separate guest wing with, complete facilities, even a kitchen. It had an outdoor kitchen, It was, I'll send you the video. If I haven't, you can post it. You look, it's impressive.
Yeah.
But it was like the rent for it, even in Vallarta, it was like we were paying like a Denver rent price. We were paying like $2,000 a month for it. And it's like, now understand that same house, if you transplanted it to Denver, it would be $15,000 a month. Yeah. It would be insane. I mean, it had a rooftop veranda. It was 4 stories.
So you guys were going to do the
well, it was like,
there.
We had to.
Yeah.
And then what I found out later was he was bringing people down and just putting them in his spare bedroom, but his house was trash.
Ew.
And his and he had literally gotten his furniture, including his guest bed that he was tripping people on, from a Mexican Goodwill, if you will, which is basically the dump. Yeah. And when something again, I'm not trying to disparage Mexicans or whatever, take it the wrong way, but when something gets thrown away in Mexico,
it's rough.
It's not like here where you could grab something out of the trash and be like, that's perfectly nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
If it's thrown away in Mexico and it's a mattress.
Yeah. So when you got there, he was tripping people at his house.
Yeah.
And that's where you guys were hanging out, and he was being all loud when the guy was tripping.
Well, that's the other thing. He would he would. So guy comes over, gives him a dose of ayahuasca, puts guy upstairs in, just a little spare guest bedroom, closes the door. Understand too, Mexican houses are mostly all rock or brick. There's a ton of echo. There's not a ton of stuff.
Open.
Yeah. And they have an open format. That's exactly
Yeah.
right. So right outside this guy's door is this like upstairs balcony, and then it's like open space, like a lot, like almost like a loft area that drops right down into the, becomes the ceiling of the bedroom, or not the bedroom, but the living room downstairs. So Barry's just at the bottom of that balcony, screaming his lungs out, high as fuck about, and then we're like, hey man, he's tripping upstairs. We need to be quiet. He shouldn't hear us. And he's like, oh fuck, that's part of his trip. I'm part of his trip.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yikes,
dude, like, and then here's
I
the
wouldn't
thing
even
too.
like listening to that sober.
No, dude. No. That's why I can't even. I hear even that South Texas, Southern Oklahoma drawl. Now, when I hear it now, I'm like,
oh no, he's just ruined it all for you.
I just judge the person instantly, and it's like I shouldn't, but
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't even hear it. I was watching a movie the other day, and a character in it had that thing, and I turned the friggin' movie off.
Oh
honestly,
no.
because it just gives me like.
All right, so you got this expensive place, because this is, I think I remember you sent me videos of the place, and I remember being like, whoa, that looks a lot nicer than it looked like in my head thinking about it.
No, it was amazing. It was amazing, and it was, and Barry's like, I'll pay some of the rent, obviously I'll give you more money towards, because it's for the business, and I'm like, all right, and it made sense once I realized like, oh, we got to make a move here, and now understand at this point, I'm in salvage mode. I'm in like, okay, it could still work, So then
Barry's just a little weird.
Yeah. It's like
just a little weird. It's manageable.
But it could have worked, and I'll get to that, where I had this like come to Jesus talk with him, where I got fucked up with him, the night he told me he was going to have his ex-wife murdered, that, hey, here's what I need you to do. You're just the face. You come out, people come down, clients come down. Hi, I'm Barry Cooper. Nice to meet you. Come out in a suit, shaved, showered, sober, have dinner. Here, welcome to Trip with Wellness. Here's my staff. Here's my executive manager, whatever, title you want to give me. He'll take care of you. And then I need him an hour when the guy's leaving, or the client's leaving. Hey, like an exit dinner. Hi, I'm Barry Cooper. How was your trip? How was your experience? And sit out, may have dinner with them, an hour of you sober, that's all I need you for, and maybe do some videos here and there, but that's all you got to do, and
I'll make it real easy on you.
Yeah. And I'll make you a millionaire, and in the meantime, you can fuck off, do whatever, smoke all the meth you want, bang all the underage kids you want, have orgies, do trannies, do whatever you want, dude. Do whatever you want. But I need 2 hours a month sober, roughly.
Yeah.
2 hours a month, or maybe 4 hours a month, because I would have had, ramped the schedule up. I'd probably had clients come down every 10, probably twice a month during the off season. But and he couldn't, but the thing is he couldn't, his ego wouldn't let himself, he couldn't get himself out of the way. He can't get out of his own way. His ego wouldn't allow it. And that would manifest like, I only worked for him for like 9 weeks. If you don't count the 5 months that he had us jumping through all kinds of hoops in Denver, and Lisa did legitimately do work. If you don't count that, if you count from the time I stepped off the plane to the time I quit, it was about 8.5, 9 weeks. I'd have to look at the calendar to, I can't remember the exact day, but I could get it to within a few days, but it was less than 2 months, or it was a little over 2 months. It was a super short time. But in that time, I can't even tell you, like, I'm going to try to get to it in this, as we go here, but it was like every day, unless he was asleep or passed out as it went, every fucking day was like a nonstop, like, Barry is like the Tasmanian devil of problems, like he's just, he's just always in crisis mode. Like he just has a fucking crisis. And if there's not a crisis, he'll manufacture a crisis. Like, I mean, really, he's manifesting every crisis, but it's just like he doesn't know how to operate if there's not a full-blown fucking crisis, dude. You know, like, oh shit is hitting the fan, you know, and he's just and yelling and fucking yeah. I'm just like, dude, this isn't that big a deal, you know, like you got a fucking paper cut. You don't need to go to the fucking go to the ER. You know, it's like shit, like, you know, everything is a 5 alarm, just off the rails, just, you know, fucking emergency, you know, and you can't go home and that's the other thing is like, you know, there was no off the clock with Barry. If he called you, he expected you to answer and you to fucking jump. And that was, you know, and that's, I can't tell you how many times, you know, 3, 4 a.m., you know, I'm sleeping, trying to sleep, whatever, phone ring, and Barry's got some fucking emergency, and it's really just him high on meth, freaking the fuck out. And I need to come talk him off a fucking ledge.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like 5, 6 nights a week, you know, and that's the thing. I would tell him all the time, like, hey, you can't do this, or you need to do this. And he would like, you can't tell me what to do with my business. And I'm like, actually, that's exactly what my job description is. That's exactly what you hired me to do. Actually.
Yeah.
So, well, but I'm Barry Cooper, you know, what I say goes. And I'm like, well, yeah, ultimately you make the decision, but look, man, like you can't take in $0 a month and spend 10 grand. You can't do that. You just can't do that. You know, like it's just, you can't, you know, take somebody's money on a deposit and give them a date and then just lie to them and push the date back, push the date back, push the date back, and keep telling them lies and just spend their deposit. Like, you can't do that. Like, you know, and as we got into it, it's like, you know, there was nothing I could really tell him, you know, because and then even when I would tell him, you know, because he does have these like lucid moments where you could talk to him kind of normal. And then he would be like, oh, you know, and then he would have this whole different, like his persona would switch and he would be like, it would still feed his ego, but instead of being like combative of like, you don't tell me my business, you know, it would be more like, oh, see, that's why I hired you, because you're the ideas guy. And that's a great idea. You know, but then when it would come, but then the very next day, or even a couple hours later, I would go, hey, time to implement that great idea that I just had. Remember? And he'd be like, oh, no, we're not doing that. You're not running my business. Who the fuck do you think you are? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm your business manager, actually. That's why I'm here, you know? And he would threaten to fire me sometimes every 2-3 hours, you know? And I'd just be like, well, go ahead, you know, and you can clean up this mess, you know?
Yeah.
So, fuck, where am I? I don't even know.
So you're in the house. You're stuck in the expensive house. Did you guys start doing trips again?
Well, he had a guy on the books, Christopher Trice, that was on his way. So, same thing, you know. So Chris gets there. He gets me and Lisa to pick him up. We bring him to our house. But then he had already scheduled. He had already had a hotel, you know, that he already got so he wanted to go stay in his own hotel. So we're like, yeah, that's cool. You know, I wouldn't want to just stay with some strangers either that just picked you, know. And keeping in mind, this is before Airbnb took off, really, you know. You know, I mean, and actually Chris ended up staying with us because Barry fucked him over, but after the fact. But yeah, then, you know, we're going over to Barry's and it's like he just wants to talk about sex and drug, like, you know, but just like a 15-year-old boy would, you know what I mean? Like, and he, you know, and then it's like guys coming over to trip
meth, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, he's high all the time.
Meth makes you real horny.
Yeah. Well, he's on meth. He's meth. It's not real fucking meth. It's garbage.
It's fentanyl, probably.
How he's so addicted to it, I don't understand.
Yeah.
I tried it a couple times, full disclosure. And I've smoked like real meth, like a ton, you know, but I've tried it because I have this mentality of I'm going to try everything. Yeah. And I've tried most drugs, you know, and that's part of the credentials of why he hired me.
Yeah.
And the time we had to come to Jesus talk, I smoked some of it with him. It is fucking garbage. Calling it meth is like, you know, I mean, he's just fucked up, and it wouldn't matter. The dude could get fucked up. You could give him a blank cartridge and tell him it's got peyote in or whatever, and he'd fully trip psychosomatic, like, because he just he can't be alone with himself sober. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If he's either fucked up or he's asleep or he's unconscious.
Yeah.
There's no, every once in a while you'll get a glimpse of sober Barry, and it's like a different dude. Like it's a different dude. But
okay, so what happened with Chris?
Well, like Chris was coming over to Trip the first night, and then Barry, understand he's staying at a hotel on his own dime. Barry blew him off for like a week and a half, just like he does everyone. Finally, I'm telling Chris, and every time Chris would call, he would hand me the phone. He'd go, make up a story. I can't fucking deal with this tonight. Like, tell him tomorrow night. And he just pushed it back. Finally, I'm like, he hands me the phone. I just look at him. I'm like, I look right in Barry's eyes, and I'm like, oh yeah, Chris, come over at 8:00. And I hung the phone up. He's like, what the fuck you doing, dude? And he wanted to, so we had been talking prior to Chris calling, and we got over there like 5. Now it's like 7:30. Chris is supposed to come at 8. Well, from 5 to 7:30, we're sitting in his living room. He's smoking meth, drinking, getting drunk, talking about like the sex club that's in Puerto Vallarta where you can go, and it's like got all these themed rooms, and I guess it's like kind of like a swinger compound, and him and Mia go there, and like people, you just leave your door open and people just come in and join it. It's like, I get, and he said that he saw people like sniffing stuff there, and I'm like, oh, you mean poppers, and he's like, and remember, this is drug guru Barry Cooper.
Yeah.
He's like, what the hell's a popper? And I'm like, well, it's like a chemical whipping, and he's like, I'm like, it's a real sexual drug. A lot of people that, it's in that arena, I'm like, you've never heard of this? No idea. So he gets all giddy. So I'm explaining it to him, and he gets all fucking like, he's like, oh yeah. And so we pull up like a picture one on the internet, and he goes, oh yeah, this sex shop I go over to over here in the Romantica zone, like in Vallarta, I've seen those under the counter. He's like, that's what those are. He's like, so now Chris calls, and he's like, cancel it. We're going getting some poppers, and we're going to the sex club. My treat. And I'm just like, he's like, yeah, you and Lisa can have your own room, whatever. And we're just like, I'm like, no, buddy, that's like, here's what we're going to do. We're working right now. We're going to trip Chris, and on Friday you can go to the sex club when we don't got nothing scheduled. That's how we do this. We're working right now. And he's like, no, I'm Barry Cooper, blah, blah, blah. And that's when he's like, yeah, cancel it. And I'm just like, Chris, come over anyway. Like, yeah, it's, and he did that all the time.
So he wanted to go do poppers when Chris was coming over.
Yeah. But yeah, he wanted to go party.
Yeah.
He didn't want to, he's like a child, like when it actually comes time to work, he don't want to work, and he'll throw a tantrum to get out of it.
Okay.
Like, and it's like, it work. Hey, I'm Barry Cooper. Yeah. Take this ayahuasca, go trip, like,
yeah, it's not that hard.
He focus for 10 minutes, can't do it. And that's the other thing too. Like in any of those run-ups, anytime we had something to do, I would be, in his orbit, and he's just fucking meth, coke, weed, fucking tumblers of fucking Jack and Coke or whatever, rum, whatever, tequila, just getting fucking blotto, dude. And just as he gets more fucked, like that combination of, he's just like, rah, just screaming, just shirts off, and he's just strutting around, and just being fucking crazy. And I'm just like, dude, like, this is not who you bring somebody to trip anything or do. This isn't
not a shaman.
Like, dude, I fucking work here, and I hate it. Like, I don't, I have to be here. Like, I'm like, and without insulting him, tell him like, yeah, you got to calm down, buddy. Like, like you can, maybe put that, hey, let's trip this kid in a couple hours, and then you fucking go do whatever you want.
Go party later. Yeah.
Party later. It was like talking to a teenager. It was like talking to like a 14-year-old. Like, no, dude, you can't go to the mall tonight. You got to do your homework, bro. Like, come on, dude. Like, it was just like,
So Barry figures out what poppers are.
Yeah, he found out what poppers were.
You told me another story about the poppers.
Really?
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. You think that's, I guess we're fucking no holes barred here.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, man. If this gets taken off YouTube, it's not my fault.
That's fine.
All right, get right into it. True story. While I was there, Barry goes and gets a bunch of boppers. I show him how to do them, and I'm very deliberate of like, yeah, this is like a volatile chemical. It's very flammable. You can't, it will kill you. You can't ingest it. You don't drink it. You don't snort the liquid. It's just the vapor. You know, I'm like breaking it down like a fucking scientist to like
And
a
he's
doctor.
probably not
you know?
listening.
Yeah. You know, but yeah. Me and Lisa go home. You know, him and Mia are going to party, you know. That was 8, 9 o'clock, whatever. 2 a.m. Lisa's phone, my phone just blowing up. Mia's on Lisa's phone, like crying, upset, like Barry's having an emergency. I answer my phone. It's Barry. He's fucked to the gills. And I like leave the room, you know, because Mia, like Lisa's trying to calm Mia down. She's like fucking like is freaking out. Like doesn't know what to do. I'm thinking like he had a heart attack or something. You know what I mean? Like he OD'd. You know what I mean? Like, and he would do like he's just like a goblin, like, you know, and maybe if you partied, your audience is partied. You know, people combine drugs, do different things for different reasons. You know, when they're partying, that is what it is. But he's just like he has no meter or control. Like you could put 15 different contradicting drugs in front of him, and he'll just gobble them all and all of it. You know, and then he's just schizo, you know, he's like, and so he's on the phone, he's just fucking haywire. And I'm like, dude, buddy, what's going on? You know, and he's like, you got to get over here right now. Like, I need you to get these poppers out of my ass. And I'm like, huh? Now understand, I just woke up. I'm like, what, huh? And I'm like, what'd you say? You know, and he's like,
in his ass.
So the little glass bottle that the poppers come in, if your audience don't know what poppers are, they're this little jet fuel bottle that you inhale. It's like a chemical whippet, you know, the best way to say it. And you inhale the vapor and it gives you like a high, you know, and it's a great like booster to some drugs. And it's very sexual, kind of like meth. Some drugs are more sexual. Poppers are very sexual. And he, after being explained explicitly how to use them, and Mia too, and understand Mia's, you know, supposedly a nurse and, you know, another adult. And he somehow put the whole bottle up his ass and lost him up his ass. True story.
Clip.
And I needed to help him get it out, you know, and I'm just like, nope.
No.
and he's like, well, I'm your boss. And I'm like, I'm off duty.
You know, you aren't paying me enough to do that.
Well, yeah, I didn't know. Like, what do you want me to reach up in there and get them for you, bud? Like,
yeah. So he put it in like open.
You know, after I hung up on him and Lisa hung up with Mia, and Mia was just like crying like a blubber. Like we were both like,
he must have burnt his.
But no,
like,
if he'd have put a full open bottle of poppers in his ass, that had killed him. He'd have been dead. He wouldn't have been on the phone with me.
Yeah.
So, and no, it turns out they were
like a solvent or something.
They were sealed. No, it turns out they were sealed, and he just somehow the bottle got his ass, and then it got too far up in there, but he got it out. So, as I heard, I mean, and you know, he just kind of gave me this sheepish look about it, and I was just like,
oh my god, dude,
don't care, don't need to hear it.
Got carried away, and they were just shoving whatever in his ass. At least that makes sense.
I wondered later if it was just a ploy because he had this fantasy about me fucking Mia in front of him and him watching.
Yikes.
And and like part of me was like, me and Max later were like, was that a ploy to get me over there and to like try to lure me into sex with them or something, you know? Because, you know, he made numerous advances at me and Lisa throughout the whole thing.
Max too, right?
Yeah, I think, and clients.
Yeah.
He came on to Adam Kokesh.
Tell me about Adam. Yeah, definitely tell me about Adam. The whole thing, everything you know.
Everything I know about Adam. So Adam came down and tripped with him just right before I got there. Like Adam was there in like May, June, and I came in July. Like just a few weeks after I got there, he left. And Adam was down there for like 2 or 3 weeks, stayed with him, stayed with Mia. I later found out, not directly from Adam, but from his like campaign manager when he was running for president a few years ago. Adam I think his name was Gizzarelli or something. I can't remember the guy's name, but I was friends with him, and him and I communicated. He communicated for Adam at the time.
Yeah.
And like one of his best friends, whatever, campaign manager.
It was during a time when Adam had tried to hire a hacker to ruin some guy's life.
Yeah.
And he had talked to the guy's son and like told his son that his dad was a scumbag and his parents were like.
It was right when that stuff was going on.
Yeah.
I don't think Adam Kokesh. I think this other guy who I think name is also Adam, if I'm remembering correctly. I might be wrong about that. It's been a minute. But his last name was weird, like Gizzarelli or something. He's from Boston, I remember. But anyway, when I talked to him, because he was communicating for Adam,
Yeah.
Adam's like weird about
Adam was too cool.
Yeah. Well, no, he's just weird about. I think he's like afraid of Barry, or Barry like tried to extort him or blackmail him, because when Adam was down there and on ayahuasca, and this happens to a lot of people on ayahuasca, ibogaine, sometimes DMT, they will sometimes like within their trip, they'll sometimes talk about stuff they've done in the past, problems
like
they had.
Serum shit, yeah,
kinda, and unbeknownst to Adam or all his clients, anyone that tripped with Barry, if you ever tripped with Barry, he had hidden mics, audio and video, and recorded you as you were tripping, which is a fucking massive no. Like, dude. And apparently,
like
apparently,
ethically,
yeah, I just and understand. I didn't know this going in. I found this out as I got down there, and that him and I had a big fight about that. And I told him straight up, I'm not participating in that. And it didn't happen while I was there, But that was just one client,
And you think he got Adam to say some shit?
Well, apparently, I saw Adam's. So at one point, I had access to all Barry's back
video
office, all his media, like all his passwords, his Facebook accounts, Gmail, everything.
Yeah.
And I should have built back doors in at the time and whatnot, and had, I should have, but I only had access to it for about 6 weeks. But one time I was over there at work and I'm looking through all the stuff, and I have to, because he's so unorganized, he's got all these accounts. I have to look through all his mail for stuff. And I was doing like keyword searches, and I saw the voice files, and he had Kokesh, and I clicked on one, and it was Kokesh. And he was like laying in there, and he was talking, like saying stuff. And I didn't listen to a ton of it. It sounded like he was talking about his dad or something at the time.
Probably.
But allegedly, he said something on one of those times. He tripped 3 or 4 times. He's down there a couple of weeks. He tripped him 3 or 4 times. Apparently, in one of those trips, he said something inflammatory or something that was not kosher. I don't know. I don't even want to speculate the context of it. I don't know what it was. I just something
I have some ideas. Yeah.
And I'm so I told him about that. He was like, well, what's he going to do about it, basically, which is, and I'm like, well, I'd say something to Barry minimally. And then he was kind of was like, what's that going to do? And it kind of has a point. But that's what happened with Kokesh, in short, and then later Barry had this FBI agent in his Gmail, and he had solicited the FBI to sell Kokesh's, and he sent it. I read this with my own eyes, and I should have fucking copied or screenshot or something. Yeah. But it was one of those things. It's like, well, later if this becomes a thing, I'll still have access to it. But then, I didn't. You always. Again, I'm not like trying to fucking play international spy. You know what I mean? Like, I thought about it, but then I was like, I should have just hit print real quick, fold it up, put it in my pocket. Yeah. But he solicited the FBI and volunteered to get leaders of the anarchist movement down there, like Larkin Rose, Berwick, Kokesh, names like that.
Yeah.
Get them down there, trip them on ayahuasca, get them to spill their guts, record it, and then give it to the FBI.
Yeah.
And he was going to try to buy his passport back for that, because Cooper is actually persona non grata in the United States. Yeah. A lot of people don't know that. He tells mixed stories about it. He's
not allowed back here.
He's actually not allowed back here. And I'm pretty sure there's some active warrants in a couple different states. I can't
Okay,
comments
wait. Tell me
100%.
about his wife, ex-wife.
Candy. Yeah.
R.I.P.
Yeah. So when we had the come to Jesus talk, right before I quit. Well, I got to start with Mia actually,
Go ahead. Yeah.
because we were only we're down there a week before we met him, and then it was maybe not even a week. It was the first week. It was maybe 5-6 days after we met him, and we're going over there during the day. We go to his house and work. There's no office. It's like he's got a little a desk with his computer on it in his house. It's but I'd have to go over there and but then you just deal with him, and it was mostly just listen to him rant and nothing. And he'd want you there all day for. And if you're there 8, 9, 10 hours, you do 20 minutes of actual work is all the rest of it would be just listening to him be fucked up, and just be, it's like, it was like a bad fucking movie. You couldn't leave, man, or something. I don't know how to explain it.
I could imagine. I mean, dude, PV's not even that nice. I mean, PV's like sketchy.
Not off the beaten path. It's not. Now the cartel does have. Remember I told you about? It's like kind of like Switzerland. The cartel does have a standing order down there. Like gringos are off limits. Like even expats. Like it is a super safe place within Mexico. It's probably the safest place in Mexico.
Really?
Because
because of tourism.
So gringos are off limits. Like they can rob you, but not by force. They can confidence rob
they
you,
can scam
overcharge you, lie to you, whatever. But they
Yeah.
can't pull a knife on you or a gun on you. Now you turn your head, they steal your purse, sure, but they can't hurt you.
Yeah, interesting.
That's a death penalty, actually, for locals.
When I lived in Nicaragua, they had like tourist police and shit, that like take care of you.
Yeah, same idea. I mean, everybody down there's a cartel eyes and ears, Now the cops will rob you. The local cops will rob you, And they have a scam they do actually where you're walking down the street and they'll see your shirt and like, oh, and I'm down there from Denver, so I got like Denver Nugget shirts, Denver shirts, whatever.
Yeah.
So they'd see me coming from 100 yards away and they'd be like, oh, dude, we got the Denver Dank Nugs. And so I'd be like, oh, let me see what you got. And it'd be fucking pencil shavings and they'd want like 80 bucks, for like a quarter.
Yeah.
And then if you bought it, you'd walk 20 feet and a cop would pop out of fucking the ground and be like,
yeah,
you got marijuana. I'm going to need you to go to the ATM and the bond's $300. And it's like, it was like a racket. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you don't, so don't buy marijuana down there on the street, on the Matacon, because it's a scam. And if you get away with it, it's really not smokable. It's like sawdust dipped in bug juice, dried out.
Yeah.
Like it's fucking garbage. You're
It
better
seems
off.
like Central America is a lot better than Mexico.
Yeah. Even the weed down there, you had to know someone. You had to know a cartel member to get like smokable weed. It's like really bad. Like it's just bullshit. Yeah. So
okay. So
Mia, the first week, Mia shows up at our house with her face busted, bloody nose, black eyes, and she's a tiny Filipino chick. I think she's like half Spanish, half Filipino. She's tiny, Lisa's 5'3", 110 pounds, and she was bigger than Lisa, bigger than Mia. Like Mia's like 5 foot 99 pounds. She's fucking tiny. She's a little waif thing, and she was just beat the fuck. And we're like, and she shows up crying in a taxi at like 2 a.m. And I go over there. So Mia's there with Max and Lisa at our apartment before we get the house. This is week 1. This is like 5 days in. I take an Uber over to Barry's. Barry's storming around, and he just straight up like, I beat the shit out of her. She, I told her to fuck this dude. She didn't want to fuck him. So, she does what I say and nah.
Whoa.
And something, this, and that, just justifying it, whatever. And I'm just like, dude, like, and he's like, oh, down here, it's not even a crime, which it's technically is, but it's not, you couldn't get arrested for it down there, like, so he knew he could get away with it, but I'm just like, buddy, this ain't cool, man. Like, like, I don't want to be part of this, dude. Like, what you can't beat up on a woman, dude. What are you doing, dude? Like, kind of trying to tread
Well,
lightly.
there's a certain type of person that takes advantage of the lawlessness of certain areas,
Right. Well, he's down there because he has to be, but he was definitely like, I mean,
You
he's
like it down there, probably.
he's a manipulative fucking piece of shit, dude. At the end of the day, like, again, he's a damaged individual, but he's somebody who, absolutely will take advantage of anything that helps him be what he wants to be, which is a piece of shit, unfortunately. I mean, he chooses to be like that. He's choosing it, So, he beat the shit out of her and whatever. And he like hid her passport and wouldn't let her leave and shit. And then she's over telling Lisa, that he makes her fuck all these guys and do all this sex stuff. All this weird sex stuff she don't want to do, that she's not really into. And if when he he smokes and gets high for 7 days and he's up 7 days and then he crashes and he goes ballistic and beats the shit out of her. And sure enough, the whole 8 or 9 weeks I knew him, she got beat up every 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks on average, the whole fucking time.
Yeah.
I mean, there was nothing, it never happened in front of me because I would have intervened.
Yeah.
To a point, but she, and then he beat her so bad one time that she had bruises on her whole body, like just like her whole body. Like she had to wear this long sleeve like dress that went to her ankles and all the way down, and in Vallarta. And this is summer and this is July in Vallarta. It's the hottest fucking time. It's like fucking, to give your audience an idea too, if you haven't never been to Vallarta, if you've seen the movie Predator, the original Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, it was filmed right like a few miles in the jungle, right behind where I lived. Like that's where it was filmed.
Sick.
Yeah.
They were sweaty the whole time in that movie, for sure.
Fucking brutal. Those guys earned their money on that movie, running around the jungle with full military gear on. They fucking earned their money. It was just horrible. Like, and then he told me, like, and she told us, and then he later admitted it, that he had a plan that if he killed her, to like ram some pills down her throat and be like, she OD'd.
Jesus
and
Christ.
He didn't seem that fucking concerned about it. And, we talked to me. And so, of course, now understand what kind of a position this puts me and Lisa in, as being that we work for him, and then his wife is coming to us behind his back being like, please help me escape him. And so we got a friend of ours at the time, a chick named Paula Reed, up in Nova Scotia, Halifax. We told her about it. She's kind of like a feminist activist. So she's like, what? So she agrees to get Mia a flight to Nova Scotia and take her in. And Mia has a valid nurse's license. She could have got she was like, I'll get her, I'll take care of her until she gets on her feet up here and help her get a job and get a place to live. And, and we'll keep it all secret from Barry and we'll hide her. And we had the ticket bought, like $1,200 ticket on Air Canada. And Mia didn't do it. She bailed. She's still with him. And I'm sure she's still getting beat. I'm positive. Barry has absolutely no compunction about it. He will justify it 6 ways from Sunday. He's not shy about telling you that he does it or did it. He doesn't care what you think about it. I mean, he won't put it out in the world, but if you know him, if you're in his orbit and you know about it, he doesn't care. He doesn't give a fuck. Like, for instance, I kind of sniffed out, like I have a ton of gay friends. Some 4 or 5 of my best friends are gay. I've hung out in gay bars. I'm not homophobic at all. I'm straight, completely straight, but I have no problem with bisexuality, gay people, none at all. And I got a pretty good sense of gaydar I developed over the years. Like, it's pretty accurate. And I sniffed out right away, like within the first week, that Barry was bi, at least, if not in the closet. And turns out that was true. And I thought that would be I thought that was what was driving him. That he was secretly gay and he had this, big macho persona. And so he couldn't come out, you know what I mean? And that was what's causing him to act out like this. but he'll come right out and tell you that he's bi, and that in fact, he likes to fuck. Like he would routinely buy, rent, hire, whatever, underage boys and fuck them.
Yeah.
And when I say underage boys, I'm talking 11 to 15. Saw it with my eyes. He tricked me into coming to a condo he had, and I walked in there, and it was this black lawyer he has who he was also fucking, this black lawyer from Chicago, and like 3 really young Mexican boys in the 12-ish, 13-ish, and they were all naked in a hot tub. And he's like, "Come on in, party with us." I'm like, "Goodbye," and I walked out. And then later I told him, "Don't ever take me to a fucking place like that. I don't want to see that." I told you I'm not partying with you like it. He constantly tried to get me and Lisa to have sex with him and Mia in one way or another. Constantly. Like one time we were just talking at his house, and he was drunk, and he's like, and he just blurted out, like he was just like, "Oh, well, next time when you guys come over and you're fucking Mia, then blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Hold on, buddy, what was that? Rewind." And he's like, and then another time he's like, "Oh, when me, you, and Lisa are having sex or something," and I'm like, "Nope, not gonna happen." And he would always like, I was in a lot better shape than I was then. Like I was pretty cut. And, because I played basketball, like at a D1 level with a bunch of guys in the league and everything. I actually tore my MCL right before I went down there, but I hadn't gotten fat yet. You know what I mean? Like, and so I was pretty ripped. And, he would constantly make comments like, "Oh, you're so good looking. And you're so jacked," like, and not comments in a way like another dude might say to you, like, "Hey man, you're pretty jacked, dude. Like, good for you." But like, "I think you're sexy," like, and I'd be like, "Dude, like,
So you're also getting, what do they call it? When someone's being sexual with you in the workplace. So you're also getting sexually harassed.
Constantly, and Lisa, Lisa was, at her peak probably then, like super skin, super good looking. Obviously I'm married to her, so I'm biased, but, and he was constantly hitting on her and like trying to get her and Mia to like admit to having sexual feelings for each other. And he actually, like, at one time when he flipped out, he like yelled at us and was like, "I know that Lisa and Mia wanted to fuck," because like one of the times actually that he beat up Mia, it was because he was jealous that he thought she was trying to fuck Lisa behind his back. And his evidence for this was that they had texted each other. And I was like, "Well, show me the text, buddy." I'm like, and because I know there's no sex chain text between Lisa and Mia.
Yeah.
So I'm like, "Show me the text." So he shows me her phone, and it's just normal business text between two, like, "Hey, Mia, we're coming over at 4:00. Okay, cool. But it's just because it's between Mia and Lisa, that means they want to fuck. There was not one sexual thing. It was just like if me and you texted each other, like, "Hey, I'm going to see you Friday. We're going to hang out and play basketball," whatever. Yeah. And then somebody read it and go, "Oh, they must be fucking."
Yeah.
It was absurd.
Well, it's like some projecting, obviously.
Well, it's what he wanted to happen.
Yeah, of course.
He later told me
a psychotic way of planting the seed.
Yeah, well, the night, well, it wouldn't, but see, it wasn't even that deep. You would think that. The truth is, he's like, I don't understand. He's like nobody's home most of the time. It's like he's just saying things. He's just saying things. His thoughts come into his head. He's been up 7 or 8 or 10 days on meth. He's on coke. He's on alcohol.
Yeah.
He just smoked some weed. He sees Mia and Lisa sitting on the couch talking about something, and he sees them naked having a threesome, and him, because he's horny, and then he just blurts it out, like a fucking 12-year-old boy, dude, like a horny 12-year-old, like, he ultimately told me the night we had to come to Jesus, he told me that his fantasy was to like sit on a butt plug and jerk off while I fucked Mia and Lisa in front of him. Yeah. And I'm just like, dude, not going to happen. Too much information. Like, and again, that's unsolicited. It wasn't like I was like, "So tell me your deepest sexual fantasy about
Yeah.
Nope. It was just that he just blurted that out at one point.
Yeah.
When we were tripping on acid. Yeah. So I was like, huh?
Okay.
no, like,
Yeah.
and that was near, that was the night. So I'll tell you about that night. 'Cause that's kind of
So
gets to
Mia,
camp.
that was all Mia, the Mia
Yeah.
story.
I mean, Mia's allegedly a nurse. I think it's a fake or forged certificate that they bought from the cartel.
Yeah.
I saw her giving people IVs and ozone. She don't know what the fuck she's doing.
Yeah.
Mia's obviously got problems that she stays with dude, and she,
Yeah. Obviously.
listen, she had a way out. We made a way out. She had the ticket bought. I stole her passport out of Barry's safe and had it for her. I was going to take Barry over here while Lisa got her in the Uber and took her to the airport. She could have left.
Yeah.
She opted to stay.
Yeah.
And then after that, we just kind of didn't talk about it,
Yeah.
I mean, he would beat the shit out of her and we'd be like, can't, what can you do? And she, at first she portrayed it like she couldn't leave and needed help. But then when that became real.
Well, yeah, that's a pretty typical, typical
Yeah,
thing for someone in a toxic relationship to, reach out, but then at the last minute, want to stay with the dude.
Yeah. And at the time, I didn't have a lot of experience with that. And on that level, like I knew chicks maybe got smacked or whatever, something maybe minor or something, but not like shit beat. I mean, there's a couple times where I was like, you need to go to the hospital, and she'd be like, oh, I'll be fine. And like, I'm sure she's had a few concussions. I mean, he hits her like a man, dude, and, I mean, she's a little tiny chick. It's like, and she would be in pain, but you can't push a rope, dude. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
We made a way for her and everything. And I mean, it literally was the day. And I had Barry at this like fake event I set up to like lure him out of the house. And we went there and it was like, okay, here's your first class ticket to Halifax. Paul is going to meet you when you get off the plane. Here's your packed bag and your passport. And here's some traveling money. All you got to do is get in this car and go get on the plane.
Yeah.
She went back in the house.
Jeez.
And we were like, and I talked to her for maybe 2 hours, like trying to convince her that she should leave, as she just bawled.
Yeah.
And then, and she's like, no, I'm going to stay. I'm going to stay. And I'm like, okay, understand from what goes on forward. Don't look at me for help. Then this is your help. Take it or don't. And she was like, and then after that, we kind of just had to turn a blind eye to it. And she just kind of, she just takes her lumps. Like, it's just like her life, dude. Like, I mean, it was weird, but at the time it was like, well, I got to look out for myself, like, I couldn't, I can't make her do the right thing or what, she's there because she wants to be,
Yeah, for sure.
So, but anyway, finally, shit comes to a crescendo, and it's, dude, the whole first 6-7 weeks is just episode
Didn't he
after
like
episode.
flying sidekick karate chop a guy that he was a patient of his?
Antonio. I'll get to that. Let me get to that. Let me kind of just kind of stick chronologically. And understand this. I don't know how much time you got, but this fucking could go on for 4 more hours if I tried to drill down in every fucking story. Like, dude, every single day.
Just give me the top 5.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to keep it for brevity's sake. Like, so, shit comes to a crescendo where I'm like, dude, something's got to change or whatever. So one night he beats the shit out of Mia. Mia comes to our house because she would escape to our house. We did let her come to our house, to get out of his way. I go over there because, of course, he's fucking having a meltdown and he's going to kill himself. That's another thing. He's going to kill himself. If he doesn't get the attention he wants, he's going to kill himself. If you kind of ignore him, then he'll kill himself, which is, he's not going to do, but he's an attention whore. He's like a, in that regard, he's like a 14-year-old girl, he's just, and that's what all is. I wish his followers could spend 10 minutes around him in real life. They'd be like, you don't understand what you're feeding. Like, it's, anyway. So all this stuff, you know, and then he's ripping off clients, and not just, you know, trip to wellness clients, but never get busted clients, or his, you know, any business Barry Cooper has is a scam. And not to say that it's a scam, meaning it doesn't exist. It's that he's not going to give you what you're paying for. He's going to take your money and then just lie to you and not do it. It doesn't matter what it is. So look, if you are listening to this, or you see this video, and you or someone you know is going to give Barry Cooper some money for anything, don't. It's going to go to underage hookers and drugs, and you're never going to see one iota for your money. Nothing, with no remorse. And it doesn't matter. I read emails with my own eyes, people being like, my husband's in jail for manufacturing a meth. I just sold my house and all my belongings, and I'm living in my sister's basement or attic to send you this $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000 for you to come help get him out of jail doing your expert witness consultation. And Barry will take that money, spend it on drugs and hookers and his own bills, and then block their email. Well, he'll send them excuses for about a year until they get desperate and start yelling at him, and then he'll just block them.
Yeah.
That's all he does. And I'm like, why don't you just do the thing? And he could do it.
Yeah.
You know, he just won't, you know. And he'll tell you story after story to get you to send more and more and more money. You know, and that's the thing. I'm just like, he could be a successful businessman and live well and actually help people. He just somehow in his warped psyche, like, it's hard to explain. It's something that you could only understand if you spent time around him and heard him all the time, like unfiltered, you know, not his persona. That again, if all you followers are out there, and I'm sure there'll be people watching the video, oh, he's a liar, blah, blah, blah. Barry's the best. Barry for president, you know. He's like, dude, you're watching an actor do a bit. Like you're watching a persona he wants you to see. The real Barry is what I'm telling you. And you can't, and that's why he's so secretive. And, you know, I'll put it out there. Any of his, you know, anybody you want to test it, test it. Tell Barry you want to come hang out with him.
Yeah.
It won't happen. And he'll tell you, oh, the FBI's after me, the CIA's after me. There's hitmen, blah, blah, blah. He's got all these stories. It's because he can't hold it together for a fucking hour. If you're around him for an hour, you'll know he's full of shit.
Yeah.
He's an obvious liar. And I found out later, it's funny. I found out later that before he was a cop, he was like a used car salesman, and he was a preacher at one point.
Oh,
and it's
my
like,
God.
You couldn't make it up. You know, you can't make this shit up, dude. Like,
yeah.
And I didn't know that, you know, I might have been like, you know.
No, that makes sense.
Because already the fact that he was a fucking pig in my book made
him,
you know, but that got overrode because he went against that narrative, right?
Yeah.
And did the whole never get but, and I was like, okay, he's, you know, he woke up from that, you know.
Yeah.
He didn't. He's still proud of being a cop.
Once a cop, always a cop.
In fact, the night I'm about to tell you about, the Come to Jesus talk, it kind of ended in his bathroom, him crying, showing me all his cop plaques and how proud he was of them, of how much drugs he interdicted in a month and how many fucking people he arrested and traffic stops he made and all this shit and all his awards. He's got all that shit, dude. It's in his closet. He's got all these plaques made up. He's fucking proud of it. He's proud as shit about it.
I'm not surprised.
He told me how he beat a homeless man to death.
Yeah.
Just cause.
Yeah.
With a couple cops. Like they just took this guy out under this bridge in a deserted part of like Texas where he was and just beat him to death with batons.
Wow.
Did it happen? I don't know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put money against it didn't. Because Barry, too, that's the thing is, if he was around a bunch of cops and that was their, like he told me it was kind of like that it was kind of like, because stories. It was like a gang, you know, they are a gang, you know, they're just, they're a legal gang. But it was like his guys in his special drug interdiction unit, which, you know, in his mind are like fucking Green Berets. You know, he had to do that so that they knew he was trustable, that he was like cool. So he had to do it. But then, but you should have seen the glee that he's like, man, I hit this nigger upside the head and his fucking skull busted open.
Yeah.
And he wasn't like, man, that's fucked up. He was like,
Yeah.
it was awesome, dude. You should have seen it.
Yeah.
Like he was trying to impress me. That's the other thing. He was always trying to butch up to me. Like he knew I'd been in the Army for 11 years. You know, I was in combat arms. And he was always trying to like butch up to me about like how tough he was, what a badass he was. And he's a fucking fraud. He's a coward, and he's scared as shit of anything and everyone. You know, he'll only fight you if he has a chance to blindside you or sucker punch you. You know, like he ain't gonna square up on anyone.
Well, he attacked what's her name at Anarchapulco or something.
Oh, yeah,
Adam's ex.
Larkin's chick.
No, Adam's ex, I think, or was it Larkin's chick?
That's you know what? We're both right. We're both right. We're both right. Yeah.
Really?
No, he didn't attack. What's her name? The fucking dragon.
All I know is dragon anarchist.
You know, you can figure it out who we're talking about.
I know who we're talking about.
Yeah, we know who we're talking about. She told me again. She told me that he didn't like attack her, but he like showed up in her room drunk and tried to fuck her basically, and she had to be like, no, you know. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. He attacked Adam's chick in a separate incident. I think that might have been two different Anarchapulcos, actually. I think it was like separate years even. But yeah, we're both right. Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah. You didn't know that about Larkin's chick?
No, I didn't know that about that happened too. And it's just like every time it comes up, news these like and how do
dude, anytime
how in the age of internet do people get away with this kind of stuff?
It's fucking amazing. Well, that's why I'm doing this, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, you and I've talked, I've been candid with you that I just want to put this shit behind me.
Yeah.
And I'm only really doing this because it needs if this stops,
you gotta get it off your chest too. Like it's a weight on your shoulder.
I've had talks, you know, like over the years, you know, again, this is, you know, 2017, you know, so 2018. So it's been a minute ago, but if this stops if one person sees this video,
it's worth it.
And goes, oh, I was going to give Barry Cooper 30 grand to go trip with him or whatever bullshit he's peddling now, and they don't.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel better about it.
Yeah,
you know,
then
sure. I'll
that's
sleep
why
better.
I'm doing it. Yeah.
You know, I don't, you know, and even now, if I saw him, I wouldn't even, you know, I'd just walk by him. You know, I don't.
Yeah,
I don't have.
No,
you know,
I absolutely understand that.
I'm sure it sounds like I have a huge grudge and whatever. Yeah, I really don't at this point. But over the years, every time I've talked, you know, and it was amazing after this happened to me, and I'm talking to people. Then all of a sudden, everybody comes out of the woodwork and be like, "Oh, you didn't know Barry's a piece of shit? You should have said something to me." And I'm like, "Yeah, you fucking knew I was moving down there to work with him. Why didn't you say something?" But everybody's like, either he has this like psycho persona that people are scared of him. I wish that's the other thing. I wish people knew what a coward he is. You know, like he's a bitch. He ain't fighting nobody. He ain't tough. He ain't, you know, like he's a bitch. You know,
well, he's
like,
fighting women. That's all we hear.
Yeah, he's the intergender fighting champion of the world. He'll fight a woman. Yeah, no problem. He ain't fighting no dudes. You know. He attacked my friend.
He's gonna flying sidekick a dude.
Yeah.
When the guy's
he'll sucker punch you.
Yeah.
But if you're, you know, if you could take a sucker punch, and you know, he got the drop on Antonio and broke his arm.
Yeah.
You know,
so what was that story?
Oh man. Well, let me tell the night that I did drugs with him, just to get that out of the way, because that's where Candy is. And you know, obviously now for people that don't know, Candy's his ex-wife, mother of his kids, and lived in Miami, and they had been swingers, whatever, but divorced. And, you know, and I only talked to her a couple of times. I didn't know her, like I didn't meet her. I didn't know her like that. I talked to her on the phone like 2 or 3 times. Like she knew of me, like we knew of each other, but I never met her. She was supposed to come out right when I got there, supposed to come, but it didn't happen, you know. But they were either like still friends and like best friends, or they were like at each other's throats. There was no kind of in between with them, or well, there kind of was, but you know, again, I had a short window, right? I talked to her a handful of times on the phone. You know, she seemed nice. You know, other people knew her better. Like Evan knew her better than me. And like everybody said she was a sweetheart, whatever. anyway, so yeah, one night near the end there, he beats the shit out of me. I go over there. He's fucking off the rails. I'd already been partying, like, doing I'd done some coke. Like, me and Max got some coke, like some street coke, just try it. It's again garbage. But we had done some of that. I've been smoking some weed, had a few beers. So, and I had this acid that Max actually brought down from Mexico or from Denver. It was it was like a half rack of acid. Like 4 or 5 hits, but it was really strong, really good acid. So it was actually in his, like, in this foil in his, like, refrigerator at his house. And so I come over there and I'm really, like, over his bullshit at this point, so I'm just kind of like, hey, Barry, yeah, Mia's at our house, because obviously, you beat the shit out of her again. She said you're over here fucking, and he's just, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just over here to get this acid. I'm going back. Me and Max are hanging out tonight. And this is like a Friday night, right? And he's like, oh, that acid's here. He had forgot about it, right? So he comes over and he's like, let me see that. And he just opens it and takes and rips the rag in half and eats it. And I'm like, and me and Max were going to split it. And we weren't going to do it that night, but I was getting it back from him, and I'm just like, fuck. And then he's like, do this other hit with, half with me. And, and that's when I just made this snap decision. I was like, you know what? And it was kind of like a Hail Mary. It was like, maybe if I get high with him and I, like, on his level, I can fucking appeal to him, So I ate it, and we walked down the beach, and it kicks in. It's fucking strong, like, we're tripping balls. And we go on this long walk. We actually walked like 3 or 4 miles. But you know how, like, when you're on acid and you're, maybe, or you're tripping, you could walk 5 miles and it would be like 30 feet. Like, it was like one of those scenarios. And then started to come down a little bit off peak, and we got back over, like, we went all the way down the beach, like, to Romantica from, like, Fluvial, if people know that area. It's 2.5, 3 miles each way, and we walked it on the beach, just talking about random stuff, and he was being cool, like, he was being somewhat normal, and he talked about a lot of, and then we got back and started to come down a little bit, not by no means sober, but not peaking either. And that's when he just, I can't remember what brought Candy up. And then he was just like, yeah, that bitch, she fucked with me for the last time. And, like, calling the police on him or doing police actions against him. And then, like, trying to get money out of him constantly. And but also he was like, he was jealous that she was moving on, even though he lived with Mia and whatever. He still looked at Candy as, like, his property. And he literally said that to me at one point, like, that bitch is mine, And I'm just like, now understand, I'm tripping myself. Now I'm pretty good. I'm a pretty seasoned with hallucinogens and whatever, but it's like all I can do to just kind of fucking maintain, and I'm trying to pick my shots to get in, like, if you just let me do the business, bud, we can, no. Cause I'm trying to push the whole, dude, I just need you 2 hours of, I just need an exit interview, like an entry interview with a client and an exit interview, like a dinner where you're showered, and I'm just trying to push that, put like, hey, you don't gotta clash, buddy. We want the same thing. We want this business to grow. We want to make money and live good life. Like, just let me do my thing, dude. Let me do what you hired me for. Like, I'm good at it. Like, trust me, dude, and he's just like, yeah, like, yeah, sorry, man. And I'm like, this is going good. Like, oh, dude, I just, this is working, and then he just got on this fucking mean, like, this negative tangent, dude, like, where it was like all of a sudden, like, a switch was flipped, and he just got fucking, like, serial killer, like, dark. And that's when he was like, talk about Candy and how she was his, and that bitch was gonna, and he told me that he had a plan that one of his ex-cop buddies was gonna murder her. And I was like, dude, I don't want to be part of this, but I'm trying to, like, also, I'm like, okay, this is hyperbole. But then he goes on and tells me the whole fucking plan about when one of his buddies is going to drown her in a pool or in the surf and make it look like a drowning. And it's one of his ex-cop buddies. And he's going to, because he's a cop or an ex-cop, they'll believe him, and he'll sell it. And he already paid this guy to do it. And it was about 2-3 weeks later that his ex-wife died, either, I can't remember, in a pool or in the surf with one of his ex-cop buddies, just like he said. And then, and that's when he transitioned to, he told me about the time that he, we ended up back in his house, and that's, just shortly after that, that's when he was telling me about the time he beat the homeless man to death. And I was just like, and then we get back there and he's smoking meth. He's like, dude, hit this, and then he got, as you can when you're tripping, he got on this loop of like, because I wouldn't smoke it, I was like a spy, I was like against him, like an undercover cop, if you will. And I'm like, no, buddy, it's just because that's garbage, and I'm tripping. I don't want to smoke meth on top of it. Like, you shouldn't be mixing those drugs. They don't go together. And he's like, no, man, you need to hit this, dude, or you're full of shit, dude. It's fine. I'm like, fuck, here, give me it. And I fucking hit it, so we're sitting there, pass the pipe back and forth a couple times. And I'm like, there, like, we good now? Like, we done, He's just like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And then he transitioned, and we're going to all have a foursome with me and Lisa. And I'm like, no, like, listen, Barry, that's never going to happen. Ever. It's never going to happen. You need to let that go, dude. It's weird and it's creepy. And Lisa doesn't like it, dude. And, frankly, neither do I. Like, there needs to be some respect, dude. He's like, oh, yeah, you're right. And he would go back and forth from like, oh, yeah, you're right, to, like his impulses, Then he's like, yeah, you're right. Like, we'll just keep the women in the dark. We'll just have our girls on the side. We'll go to the sex club, but on, my treat, I'll get you some of the best hookers, and I'm just like, no, dude, like, I don't want to like hang out with you like that, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're cool and all, and like, it's cool. You do whatever you want. And it's cool that I know you do that stuff, and I'm cool with it. And I'm cool with that stuff, but we're not going to do it together, dude. Like, that's not going to happen, dude. Like, we need to have some decorum, like and see that. And that's the thing too, is like, he wants you to be his best friend, not just work for him. Like, I mean, the dude needs like a fucking 24-hour handler. You know what I mean? Like, that's when you're around him, that's what you become. Like, cause he's a 24-hour crisis. The only time you get any like me time or alone time is when Barry's unconscious, because he's just been up 8 days and he crashed, and he's a fucking idiot. Like, dude, the cartel had a fucking guy on a scooter stationed at his house a block away in an empty field with a bag full of meth 24 hours a day. They had a rotating shift of 2 guys every 12 hours that would sit there for 12 hours because Barry every 5 minutes. And so one day I'm like, he's doing this. I'm over there trying to work. He's on a fucking 24-hour bender, just, I'm on the computer, and he's just like right here, just fucking like, just fucked up. And so at one point, after, like, I have to go answer the door because he's so fucked up. And it's like this little Mexican kid, bringing his baggie. He makes a call because, the whole town is networked with, you can make a call and get whatever you want delivered right to your door by a little cartel kid on a scooter, the garbage drugs. Well, Barry was such a client that they had a guy stationed at his house. And I got to know the guys because I'm working over there all the time. And he's ordering drugs like and dude, he would get like a gram or 3 grams, like every half hour, smoke it, and then call him again. So one day I'm like, and he never has any money. He's always broke. He's always running out of money, always trying to bum money from you. Trying to get you to buy his drugs or pay for this, pay for that, while you're working for him and he's not paying you. Oh, by the way. And so one day, out of just sheer fucking common sense, I'm like, you don't understand how this works. I'm like, instead of paying these guys like, $40 every time and calling this fucking kid 80 hours in a row, how about you just buy like a half ounce of meth, and then you just smoke it as you go, and you save money because a half ounce is cheaper than buying 80 fucking grams. Math, And he's just like, no, I'm not going to smoke that much. See, he, like every addict, he was like, if I buy an ounce, I'm an addict. I don't even really smoke meth. I just get a couple grams here and there. That was his mentality. So he would spend all this money, just stupidly. Like, he's a child. He's a friggin' man child. Like, imagine a man child on a cocktail of drugs 24/7. And oh, by the way, constantly hallucinating because he's been up and, you know, the heat, and he doesn't eat or drink or take care of himself, you know, like, I mean, and all the drugs. And, you know, he's constantly thinks that, you know, he'd all the time get like, are you challenging me? And I'd be like, dude, nobody even said anything to you. And he would hear that you threatened him or that you cussed him, or, you know, he would get all like confrontational, and you're like, dude, chill out, bro. Like, you know. So yeah, that's you know, but then we ended that night on a good note with him agreeing that he was going to get out of the way and let me do my thing. You know, he'd give me a shot. You know, and this is like 7 weeks into, you know, me moving to fucking Mexico. He's going to give me a shot. That lasted till the next morning. You know, by the next morning, he was like, I'm Barry Cooper, and what I say goes. And I was just like, all right, dude.
So what's with the guy? What you said his name was Elliot, or the guy that he was a foreign sidekick to?
Antonio, who ended up becoming a good friend of mine. We're friends to this day, actually. He's the fourth in line, I think third in line now, to be like the crown prince of Lebanon. You know what? He doesn't even like me saying that. He's
I'll edit that
Lebanese.
out.
He's Lebanese royal family, and Barry was very adamant that. So understand this dude is like got generational wealth. He's a royal, like he grew up in Switzerland. He speaks 5 languages. He's a super cool guy, but you know, along the way partying, you know, like he hung out with famous rich kids and stuff, you know, like, and you know, hanging around Europe and stuff. Like, he likes to party, you know, he's rich, whatever, you know, growing up, he got addicted to heroin, you know, not in a bad way, like not like, you know, he was abusing or whatever, but he, you know, so he gets a hold of Barry because somebody recommended Barry, and Barry, you know, Barry with all these credentials and could be discreet and like trip him on ayahuasca or ibogaine, and had this clinic in Mexico and whatever. So he goes to Barry and pays him $30K to come down and trip. But he's like, hey, you know, I'm trying to keep this off the books, you know, I'm trying to keep this under wraps. I don't want people knowing I'm addicted to, you know, nah. What's Barry do? Makes a video about it. Oh, this royal prince is addicted to heroin, and he's coming to my friggin' shop, and, you know, because I'm the best. And then he puts out like a Facebook video about it. And the guy's like, what the fuck, dude? Like, what did I just tell you? Like, you know, and Barry already had his money. So he comes down. I quit. He comes down after I quit. Barry didn't have the ayahuasca because Barry didn't have a drug supplier like he said he did. And so he consistently couldn't get it. And then the ayahuasca that he had set aside for this guy, he like used it on, he gave it to someone else. Like, you know, and he like sold some of it because he needed money to party. So he didn't have any ayahuasca to give him. And then when the guy got mad and, you know, was like, hey, I gave you 30 grand and, you know, you don't have this facility. You don't have anywhere for me to stay. This isn't all inclusive. You don't have a resort. You don't have ayahuasca. What the fuck did I pay you? And I paid you to be for anonymity, and you fucking made a Facebook page about it and went out to like 300,000 people. Like, basically, what the fuck? He like threatened him, you know, kicked him out. The guy, through George, Antonio, the prince, comes and finds me because George tells him about me and is like, oh, and he had talked to me, and him had like communicated right before I quit, you know, about coming. And I was like, you'll be dealing with me or whatever. But then he, you know, but then Barry told him, oh, I quit because I can't remember what his first story was. Like, I wanted to fuck Mia and he wouldn't let me or something. I came on to Mia in a sexual way and he had to fire me. Some bullshit. And it never happened, you know. So he comes and finds me. George brings him to my house. He turns out to be a super cool guy. I trip him on DMT down there for free. Turns out we have the same birthday, weirdly. And except he's about 4 years younger than me. And we ended up becoming friends. You know, we became friends, and we're friends to this day. You know, like he's a really good dude, good guy to know. He's in Lagos, Nigeria right now. His dad just built a $60 million building in their like business district, like a skyscraper. That he's down there like working with his dad. But you know, I think I put you in touch with him. I think he'll probably do his own video. I think he'll do a video.
Yeah. And what happened with him?
Oh, well, Barry Barry basically kicked him out of the house and flipped out on him. He was staying with George because he had been staying at Barry's house. Because remember, Barry didn't have a place, and when we went away, now they can't stay at our like condo, our mansion. So he was staying in Barry's spare bedroom, and then Barry kicked him out. And this guy, this dude had like the money he had given Barry was like money that he had like kind of set aside and pilfered away, so that it was like off the books, because he got like an allowance from his family or the government, 11 hour or however, but it was like all metered, right? It's all like, where is this money going to? And he only got so many living expenses a month and all this. He was on a very tight budget, if you will. You know what I mean? So he had to like, this 30 grand was all like the liquid spare under the table cash he had. So he was down there. So he was staying at George. So we let him stay at our place. I ended up tripping him on DMT. Well, but right before he got there, Barry, they on the phone had a conversation where Antonio was like not going to take any shit, so he's just like, hey, fuck you, dude. Well, and we later found out George set him up, but Barry was waiting outside of George's place, like right on Main Street, right downtown. George had this little like studio and like art studio / tattoo parlor / bar in this like, shopping area right on fucking Main Street in Vallarta. He comes out, Barry's got a knife, but Antonio and George turned away from him and was starting to go down the walkway. Well, they have these elevated sidewalks that are all concrete. And they're about, in that part of town, they're about maybe 4 feet high from the real ground level. It's like this little elevated sidewalk so that you're not like, because that's like their curb, if you will. So it's like, because the streets are so tight. So if you're up on this elevated sidewalk, a car can't hit you because you're 4 feet off the ground. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, Barry came running, like jump kicked Antonio in the back. And Antonio's a smaller dude. He's full Lebanese. He's a smaller dude. He's probably 5'7", 5'8", 155, soaking wet. He's just a smaller dude genetically. And he just kicked him. And Barry's a bigger dude. Barry's 6'2", 190, 200 pounds, depending on how fat he is. And so Antonio went flying. Well, when he went flying, his feet went out from under him and he kind of landed on that concrete edge of that 4-foot curb and toppled off it and broke his arm in 2 places.
Holy shit.
And then he looks up and Barry's sticking a knife in his face, like, I'll fucking kill you, motherfucker. You don't blah, 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 blah. And then Barry threw the knife down and a cop came around the corner just happenstantially. And he grabbed the cop and he's like, oh, hey, policia, blah, blah, blah. And like broken Spanish is trying to tell like the cop that Antonio just attacked him with the knife and trying to get him arrested.
Yeah.
And luckily the cop was just like, what's going on? And, and then Barry ran and jumped in a cab and burned out and disappeared. And then Antonio had to go to the hospital, get his arm set. And then, he shows up. And then I think it was like the next day was when I met him. George brought him over to my house. He's got a cast and a sling. And I'm like,
oh my God.
And so he sits down, tells me the whole story. I end up letting him stay at our house for like a month, while he healed up, tripped him there on DMT. He had a great experience, and, we became friends out of it. And he's a solid dude, solid guy. But yeah, and Barry just stole his money and he got a broken arm for his troubles. Yeah. For basically just saying, why did you rob me? Like why, why'd you lie to me? Why'd you rob me? Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's what happened. That's what happened to Antonio, in a nutshell.
And then
hopefully he can do a video.
Mexico for another year. Yeah.
What's that?
And then you got stuck in Mexico for like over a year.
Yeah. Well, then, right before that, I had quit, and how that went. I can't remember what happened. Honestly, I can't remember now what precipitated it. I was at the end of my rope. This was about a week after the Come to Jesus thing. He was off the rails. Oh, you know what it was? That was when Ben Ulrich came over. So Barry had this like hacker web guy who lived in Mexico City named Ben Ulrich. Now he had told me that Ben was from Colorado, but he never said Ben Ulrich. He just said Ben.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. Well, so yeah, this is a little side story. It needs to be told. So Barry told me he had this guy from gringo from Colorado who did all his web stuff and was like his hacker. And Ben is a talented dude on the internet, but he didn't hack for him. But but he wanted him to, but Ben wouldn't do it ethically. Ben's also like a libertarian anarchist, you know. And he asked me one time, and he did ask Ben, in fairness, if we knew each other. But it's like, do you know Ben from Colorado? You know, like, do you know Kyle from Colorado? But then the funny part is, Ben and I did know each other, but we honestly didn't know it. We were both had gone to this like monthly meetup called Liberty on the Rocks here in Colorado. And he was from, I think, Loveland. And I lived like in Lakewood, and we had met there. Now, when I say we knew each other, we had been to several monthly meetings at the same time. We had met like, hey, I'm Ben. Hey, I'm Kyle. I didn't have his phone number. We didn't hang out. I had seen him a handful of times in passing. You know what I mean? Like, we might have been Facebook friends, but again, he never told me his last name, and he never told Ben my last name. You know, I have a pretty good memory, so I might have been like, oh, Ben Ulrich, that rings a bell. And I look, you know, wait a minute, you know. Ben later said he probably wouldn't, even if Barry had been like Kyle Moody, you know, probably from Liberty on the Rocks, Ben would have been like, sorry, I probably wouldn't have remembered you. You know,
Yeah.
I mean? But we figured it out. So Ben had been doing stuff for Barry for about a year and a half. Was supposed to be getting paid a set rate, hadn't got paid a lick. And in fact, I think Barry had borrowed money from him or solicited money from him.
Oh.
You know, Barry owed him a lot of money.
Yeah.
Thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. You know, I'll let him fill it in. You know, he said he'd do a video. You can get with him. He can tell his own story, but this aspect of it, you know, and obviously him and I, so when we figured it out was when he came over with his Mexican girlfriend, because he flew over to Vallarta from Mexico City, where he lived, to trip on ayahuasca, him and his girlfriend, for free as payment for some dent in the massive Mount Everest of money that Barry owed him, and as a way for that Ben not to quit, because Ben was at his last straw of like, hey, dude, I've been working for you for like a year and a half, and you've never paid me. You've only borrowed money and or asked me for money. And you keep saying you got all this money coming and it somehow never comes. You know, and then I talked to this Kyle dude, and I know you got paid for, you know, this Chris Trice dude. I know you got paid for Adam Kokesh. I know you got paid $30,000 for this, you know, like you're getting this $15,000 deposit. Like, why can't you pay me? And so Barry's fix was like, we'll fly over here and I'll give you and your girl free ayahuasca. Dude, the ayahuasca that Barry got cost him about $22 per liter.
Yeah.
It wasn't this big expense. You know what I mean? And he owed this guy tens of thousands of dollars. But the kid was like, Ben was like, better something than nothing, which is what anybody that deals with Barry ends up at a point where you end up like, well, what can I recoup here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fucking disaster. So Ben flies over with his Mexican girlfriend, who's very pretty, but a larger girl, I guess, compared to, you got to understand, she's next to Lisa, who weighs 103 pounds at like 5'4", whatever. And, you know, Mia's, who's fucking 99 pounds, 5 foot tall. You know, this Mexican chick's probably 5'7", maybe weighs $140, you know. Yeah. She's not fat but Barry, it's instantly calls her like, she's just a bigger chick. You know, she's very cute, very nice. I forget her name off the top of my head. Sorry, Ben. I only met her the one time, a couple times. But she was very nice, very nice. I think they're married now, you know, but Barry just proceeds to just shit on her, call her like a fat cow, and, you know, and shit on Ben, and doesn't trip him, has the ayahuasca, doesn't give it to him.
Oh my fucking.
And then me and Ben are like, wait a minute. Me and Ben figure out that we know each other from Liberty on the Rocks. It's like, oh, hey, wait a minute. Because, you know, we get talking, like he comes by my house and it's like, hey, where are you from? He's like, I'm from Loveland. And I'm like, I'm from Lakewood. And I'm like, dude, you kind of look familiar, you know? And he's like, yeah, you kind of do too. And it's like, oh, wait, didn't you go to Liberty on the Rocks? Like, oh, okay, we do know each other, you know? But it's like, you know, if you ran into somebody 5 years later from, you know, some party you were at and you met in passing, he's like, yeah, okay, I did meet you. You know what I mean? But we were never, well, then Barry gets real sick. But then in Barry's mind, me and Ben, it's a conspiracy to take over his business and rob him and ruin his life and, you know, steal his business from him, you know, his, you know, because we didn't disclose that we knew each other. And so,
you were an op, CIA op.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're a psychological black op, you know? And I'm like, dude, no, like, you know, and it's, you know, and me and Ben both tried to tell him, like, we didn't really know each other. We met 2 or 3 times in passing, you know, we were in the same room, you know, we part of the same group, but it wasn't like a fucking political group. It was like a meetup of libertarians, and we'd meet up at
and you
bar and
guys
have drinks
like at a bar.
there'd be a speaker, you know.
It's fun.
Yeah, you know, like I said, I met him in passing a couple of times. You know, I didn't have his fucking phone number. We never hung out personally. Cool guy. And I know him now. Like, you know, Ben, you're cool.
Yeah.
You know that. He knows how I feel about him. But we weren't buddies, you know, and we didn't, honestly, it just never clicked, you know, like, oh, I don't know Ben from Colorado, you know. And I remember when Barry told me, he's like, you know, Ben from Colorado. And I'm like, there's probably 5-6 million people in Colorado, buddy. Like, no, you know, Denver's a big place. Like, no, there's a lot of Bens. I know a lot of Bens, but I don't know your Ben, you know. But then when it turned out that I did, we were liars. We were out to get him, and it was a big conspiracy to take his business behind his back. And so then he fucked Ben off, and Ben went back to Mexico City and promptly quit, and then proceeded to lock him out of all his accounts. You're like, dude, you don't piss off your IT guy. Yeah. And especially one who's got high level hack, like web skill, like, and Ben's a fucking ninja, like, you know, like on the computer, like, dude, you know, and then he would bitch to me, and then he'd be like, dude, you're his buddy, call him and you talk some sense to him. And I'm like, you need to get your checkbook out, or you can forget it. You know, maybe
wasn't Kokesh's presidential campaign guy Ben Farmer?
Maybe. Yeah, unrelated, different Ben.
Okay, yeah.
This is Ben Ulrich from Colorado.
Also crazy scumbag. No, I was just trying to think back. You were trying to remember his campaign manager. I think Adam probably ended up having 10 different campaign managers.
Yeah, no, there was a bunch, and I know who you're talking about. Actually, that was there's a bunch. I'm talking about his last one that I talked to later. It was his last name. I just remember he's from Boston. His last name was like Gizzarelli. And I want to say his first name was also Adam. I might be wrong, but maybe Alex, something like that. Can't remember, but I haven't talked to him.
So he screws over Ben Ulrich.
Screws over Ulrich. Ulrich promptly shuts what online presence he has down. You know, and the funny part is, you know, at the end of the day, it wasn't about that he lied to him or the money or whatever. It was that he insulted his future wife, you know, and just fucking needlessly. Like, he just blurted out like, "Oh, she's fat," you know, fat cow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's like, dude, what the fuck? What? I was standing right there, and I was just like, you know, it's just
like, you're like, I'm so embarrassed. I know this guy,
and I'm just looking at him like, well, not even that I know him. It was anyone. It was if it was anyone. It was just like, you know, and she was upset by it, rightly so, and Ben was upset. And Ben's not a big dude or a fighter, you know, he's a computer nerd, good solid dude, but he, you know, I know he wanted to take a punch. He wanted to punch him in the face. He just didn't, you know, think of how it would go. The truth is, Ben could probably beat the shit out of Barry Cooper, and Ben's probably 5, 6, or 7, 130 pounds soaking wet. He's a small dude, thin dude, but Cooper's a coward. But Barry's a big dude, and he comes off like he's tough. But yeah, that happened, and Ben, you know, hung out with us a few days, and then went back to Mexico. And I was just like, "Sorry, buddy," you know, like.
And you guys were stuck there for another year and a half.
Then we quit. But that's what the quitting. It was a couple of days after Ben left, I was over there, and I just remember something came up, and he jobbed on, and I was like, and he had, you know what it was, is he had been sick while Ben was there, and because when he was sick, and he literally slept like 4 days, because he was sick and his system was run down. Because, dude, he does drugs and doesn't, you know, does all stuff, so he got super sick. And Vard is not a, you know, place that you want to run your immune system down. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a clean Mexico place. In general, again, generalization. I'm not shitting on Mexico. It's just not the most sanitary of places. You know what I mean? On its best day, you don't want to be walking around with open wounds. We'll put it that way. So he got real sick, and while he was sick, he thought that, you know, and while he was sick and passed out, and, you know, me was checking on him, make sure he ate and drank and pissed and shit, whatever. But, you know, me and Mia and Ben and his girlfriend, like, and Lisa and Max all kind of hung out, and, you know, like, and then he got mad that we weren't all like standing around, like, like just standing post waiting for him to utter a command. You know, he was mad that he thought, frankly, he thought some kind of party happened without him, and he was pissed. And I was basically just, and I remember we were standing in his kitchen. I was like, you know what, dude, I'm just fucking sick of this bullshit. Like, you need to calm the fuck down, like, or I'm going to walk, you know? And at this point, it was clear to me that, this was, and he was just like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And then he pulled the whole, you know what? You can't quit. You're fired. You're fired. I say how it goes. I'm Barry Cooper. You aren't, because
Yeah.
we kind of went back and forth, and he got real aggressive and real fucking intimidated at the same time. And I was like, you know what? I'm out of here. I'm like, Lisa, let's go. And so I walked out of his kitchen into this hallway that went to his front door. Now understand that in Vallarta, in any Mexico, there's your front door, and then there's a little front area that's gated, and then there's another gate door that you either get buzzed in or let in and out of. So I'm walking out to his front door. He rips his shirt off, runs in his kitchen, grabs out of like a butcher's block, grabs like his biggest steak, big like 12-inch steak knife, comes back around the corner, so starts waving. He's like, "Come on, motherfucker, I'll take you on." I just leaned up against the wall like this with my arms crossed, and I went, "You sure? You sure that's what you want, bud? Because I can just leave. We can just call it, or you can go to the hospital.
Or you could kill me.
Yeah. No,
Like,
I wasn't
really?
afraid of him at all. I wasn't afraid of him at all. And so I called his bluff in a very, and I literally leaned against the wall and put my arms like this, closed my arms, and just went, "Yeah, I'm not scared, not impressed, not convinced, and I can handle myself in a street fight. I'm not bragging. I'm not proud of it, but I've probably been in a couple hundred street fights. Somebody pulls a gun or knife on me, I'm that type of dude. It's like, oh my God, and start pissing my pants. I was like, fuck you, dude. You want to go? I was like, I can leave, or you can go to the hospital. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
He's like, oh. And so he kind of he stepped behind Mia. So he's like, Mia's in front of him. Lisa's standing just to the right of me. Lisa's like, come on, let's just go, because she's, and Mia's like, frantic, like, and Barry's waving this knife over her head. And I'm like, you're a bitch. Just, I was just like, and listen, beating Barry's ass wouldn't have, it might have made me feel better at the time, but he would have then got on the internet with a blood fucked up face and told a story about me and milked his fucking retarded followers out of some money out of it.
Yeah, of course.
He'd have spun it to open a GoFundMe for hospital bills or some shit, because he's a victim. And I, because he wouldn't let me steal his business and fuck his wife or whatever story he made up in his head.
Yeah.
I beat his ass out of retaliation, and he's the victim, and his idiot followers would send him fucking money. So I just turned around to walk out. I walked out the front gate. From his front door to the main road was about 300 yards. There was a little OXXO there. I got all the way down to the OXXO, again, about 3 football fields away. And we hear yelling. Me and Lisa hear yelling. We're waiting for a cab to pull up. We turn around. He's standing out front, waving the knife around with the shirt off, going, "Come on, motherfucker, come back here. I'll fucking teach you a lesson." So I was like, Lisa's like, "Don't, just let it go." And I'm like, no. And I wasn't mad. I was, relieved, really.
Yeah.
I was like, watch this. I turned around and took about 5 quick strides back towards him. He fucking ran in the house.
I'm sure.
And we just started laughing. I got in a cab and left.
Yeah.
And I didn't see him after that. I didn't see him again.
Yeah.
Now the next day, he moved from out of that house and moved to a house all the way across town the next morning.
Yeah.
Because he was scared. I knew where he lived, and I was going to retaliate, and I didn't want nothing to do with him. But then that was, so I moved down there July 5th. That was about the 3rd week of August or last week of August when that went down, about 8 weeks later. Yeah. Roughly, give or take a week, And then, now we're down there. No money, no job, no internet. Don't know anyone.
Oh my God.
Barry owes us fucking 60 grand we'll never see.
Oh my God.
And we couldn't just move home because we had 2 cats. One of them was sick. All of our friends, we had friends that would have put us up or whatever, but it's like, they all got dogs or animals or families, and we frankly didn't have the money to move back. So then me and Max were like, because we just put all of it into it, and we did pay for a lot of stuff and end up loaning Barry, loaning him about a lot of money in those 8 weeks, and just paying for all we probably paid like $5 grand in just food and
things that
taxi
needed to be
rides.
done.
Just different shit, bribes to cops to get him out of trouble. Just, $300 here, $300 there. And we were literally, we had like a couple $1,000s left.
Yeah.
Total, like flat busted. And rent was due in like a week. And that was like, $1,800, whatever it was.
Oh my God.
So, and it was like, so then I'm, like, okay, no big deal. Let's go get a job. And, there's a lot of expat jobs down there, especially at the resorts. But guess what? Unlike here in Mexico, you need a visa and proper paperwork to work, or they'll shut the whole fucking business down. And really, it's just extortion tactic for the local government. But they'll chain the front doors of the business and put an army truck in front of it with a machine gun and not let you do business until you pay the $10,000 fine for having an undocumented worker. So nobody would touch us.
Wow. Yeah.
So Lisa had her online thing. She kept doing that. We got, like I said, we got this expat from Dallas. I'm not going to say his name, but he was friendly with the cartel, and he had this kind of like contract with the cartel to like set up their business houses, and he could pirate. And he tapped into we lived on a cul-de-sac. He tapped into climbed a pole like a fucking lineman, tapped into the fiber optic cable and ran like a 300-foot cable, put up his own telephone pole and ran it to our balcony and down into our house and got us a modem and got us pirated fucking cable internet.
Wow.
Fiber internet.
Yeah.
And for like
at least you had good internet.
Yeah. Well, when it worked, it was blazing.
Yeah.
When it worked, and when you have pirated internet, you can't call customer service and be like, hey, my internet's fucked, because you're just jacked in.
You have to wait till it turns on.
Yeah.
Try and figure it out. So
me and Max ended up, we're just trying to figure shit out, trying to figure online shit, and at this point, Max could have left. Because Max is just single dude with no animals, no family, you know what I mean? He could have bounced back, and he had a million people. He could have went and couch surfed, got on his feet. His parents are wealthy, he stuck it out with us. Like I give him a ton of, tried to help us, especially when our cat got sick. So we ended up getting recruited by the cartel and ended up working for their business division. Like weirdly enough, for the new generation.
Had no option.
It was the only job we could do other than literally shoveling dirt for the equivalent of 38 cents an hour. Digging a ditch in like 110-degree heat.
Yikes.
38 cents an hour for labor.
Yeah.
And we could do that undocumented or work for the cartel. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all you can do. Or, in that labor thing, you could pour concrete, you could bricklay. Again, 38 cents an hour.
Oh my!
And there are guys out there doing it all day.
Oh my God!
Doing 10 hours. I was just like, and I'm not
$4.
I'm not like I can't do physical work. I'm a prima donna.
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm not laying brick in the Mexican sun 10 hours for 38 cents an hour.
Yeah,
can't do that.
That's not.
So we were trying to figure shit out. We got recruited by the cartel. That's a whole another fucking. We could do another video about that. It'd be nuts. I would, and I kind of became a rock star with their business. Like they have this whole business division. Like it's like drugs business, where they set up these fake offices inside of houses, right, in residential areas, and they just have this call center that just does scams. And I didn't want to do this, whatever, but I had to, and but I became friends with the Jefe there, and they called me White Jesus, or Wedo numero uno, number one white boy. They fucking loved me. I became super friendly with them. Hilarious. I mean, the good thing was we got some decent weed and drugs out of it, but I got paid a couple of times, but not really. That's a scam too. That's the other thing. The cartel will just not pay you.
Yeah.
And you just.
Yeah. What do you do?
What are you going to do? They're just like, yeah, we're not paying you this week. And you're like, unless you want to bang it out with them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that didn't quite work out but we ended up getting back and had to, basically start from scratch, man. When we got back to the States, through borrowing money from friends and people, and Max ended up going back early and then, helped us get a house. And, that's the other thing. It's hard to rent a house and while we left in the 2 years we were gone, the housing market in Denver went through the roof. Rent went from like $1,400 for an average house to like $3,000, like in like 18
LA
months.
Prices now. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's fucking crazy. It's crazy. In fact, the house we had lived in that we'd lived in for 7 years, the chick was renting it out like, when we left, she was renting out for like $1,900 or $1,800 a month. And when we came back, it was like 31.
Yeah.
Like 18 months later, the same house, like, and that would not like she put a pool in or, what I mean? Like same house, just
Yeah.
that's so when we
I have
finally
a
moved
friend
back,
in
we had,
Boulder, and he's like, I don't even know if I can live here anymore. Like,
yeah, it's insane. And then with gas and everything else and food, we're
So-
actually, we still live in Lakewood. We lease now. We're leasing a condo, but only reason I don't pay $4,000 a month right where I'm at is because I know the condo's owner's daughter. I'm friends with her, and so I got this place on a deal. I only pay about $2,500, but
yeah.
But
So
this place is
how
not
I
worth
saw
$2,500.
Barry seems to he's still doing this podcast, right?
Oh, is he?
And it's like he's got it's doing well.
Well, he's when he puts on his mask and for whatever time he does the podcast,
Yeah.
that's the sad part. I think there's
It
a
looks like
legit
he's
part
like
of
a
him.
dead guy going through the motions, though.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I think there's a
alive.
legit part of him down in there that's a decent dude that just wants to be, like every other human, just wants to be liked and wants to do the right thing inherently and help people or whatever, but he just can't overcome his demons, man. His
And
demons
he's
got
like
him.
hiding in the Philippines now.
But he can pull it off for little blips.
Yeah.
He can pretend for a little blip. But yeah, I don't,
He's in the Philippines
yeah.
now.
Well, and I don't know how that's working out with their draconian
Yeah.
drug laws because he's a full-on addict. But
Yeah.
And I don't care what he says if he's kicked or he did ayahuasca. That's the thing.
I
He
mean,
doesn't.
he's functioning
hasn't
enough
done
to be
ayahuasca.
consistent
He
with his podcast, which is pretty nuts.
Yeah. And
I was
how long
someone
a
hit me
podcast
up
does
the
he
other
do?
day and said he's been talking about us on his podcast.
Oh, I'm sure. And
Yeah.
he'll
But
try
that's pretty stupid to do because he's just gonna send people to my videos.
Streisand effect. Yeah. Well, he's and that's the other thing too. And I'm not, again, this isn't sour grapes or bitterness. He's got a functional IQ of about 70.
Yeah.
Like he's not the brightest dude when he's
it's all basic shit he's talking about. Like it's
Yeah.
ultra basic stuff.
well, he'll just he's got followers. He's got diehard followers that just buy all his bullshit, and he'll make up
He's
whatever.
got a documentary about him, I guess.
Well, that's part of what is Evan's book. So Evan, the guy from Toronto, who that
Yeah.
book I showed you, it's actually sitting right here. This is the rough draft. It's
Yeah. Wow.
it's fucking insane.
Yeah.
It documents 10 years of him paying Barry out of his own pocket for the rights to his life to make like a documentary about it for like either Netflix or Hulu or whatever. And he was, he got this guy for $80,000 over 10 years and then went behind his back and sold the rights to like 3 other companies. And ultimately a company in Australia paid him and made it. And Evan didn't have nothing to do with it. And, what are you going to do? Sue the guy?
Yeah.
The guy's off the grid, he ain't going to show up. What are you going to do? So yeah, he, and then here's the thing. Nobody wanted to buy the rights to his life.
Yeah.
And he got edited, the Anarchapulco HBO thing. He was originally,
he wasn't in it.
Yeah, they edited him out because
Why?
Let's just say somebody, not me, I know who, I'm not going to say who, but you probably figure it out. Somebody emailed the executive producer a bunch of stuff about Barry and drugs and underage kids, and Barry got cut out of it. There was a lot of Barry in it. He got cut out.
And he attacked Macy and Larkins. Like that's probably.
Listen, that's small.
You can't
potatoes.
glorify someone like that.
That's small potatoes compared to Barry's transgressions in general. Like that's almost a non-entity, a non sequitur. But I know everybody in that documentary on a personal level, and I talked to most of them. I still talk to a handful of some of them, and they, Berwick's a con artist too. But here's the funny part: Berwick and Barry, it's like two fucking.
Yeah.
They like.
I think that's BS. I think they're buddies scamming people.
I think they were briefly, but no. Berwick told me straight away that Barry conned him, and he was like offended by it. And I'm like,
the con man gets conned, huh?
Yeah. Barry. Well, it's like the whole no honor among thieves. It's like, if me and you were like, hey, let's do this con, but then, you know, we steal 100 grand or whatever, and then I steal from you.
Yeah,
it's like,
obvious. Oh, okay, well,
you know,
could have saw
and
that
that's
coming.
and that's basically what Barry did. Barry fucked Berwick over. I know that whole story, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Long story short, Barry fucked over Berwick, and Barry were pulling a con, and Barry undercut Berwick, and then Berwick was like, "How dare he rob me? We're the robbers," you know, like basically, you know.
Yeah, like when I was posting about, I posted up the last videos I made, like that Wong Galt guy like showed up out of the woodwork, and he's all, "Oh, Barry Cooper drama, boring," and it's like, well, why aren't you, you know, like why is that your response? You know, like why don't you
listen? Most of the people who are going to attack these videos aren't people. It's going to be fake. It's going to be Barry.
No,
Mia's going to set up a bunch of bogus accounts.
Yeah.
And it's going to actually be Barry going, that
it's
guy's
already
a liar.
happened.
You know.
Yeah,
oh,
it's
that
already
guy's full of
happened.
shit.
A bunch of people came out of the woodwork saying, yeah, Barry Cooper's a scammer. You know, people that you didn't even tell me about have come out of the woodwork.
I only
some
know
guy
people
showed up.
from
Some
my
guy
Snapshot
showed up
time.
who knew everything about Barry and everything about Max and everything about you. And it was just like,
oh,
it was like, oh yeah, this isn't Barry. And then Barry showed up like a week later. Oh, someone said, you know, and he's like, I want to challenge everyone to a debate. You know, like they have to face me or else you have to take these videos down. And I'm like, I'm not doing shit.
Dude, that's what he always tries to. That's his first tactic is he'll try to throw like shock and awe at you. He'll threaten you. He's gonna sue you. He's gonna send guys to your house to kill you. He's gonna kill you. He's gonna blah blah blah. And he's throwing a fucking tantrum like a 9-year-old. He's a fucking tool. And he ain't he ain't tough in real life. Maybe he beat up a homeless handy. He beat to death with a baton a handcuffed homeless dude.
Yeah.
If he can beat a couple women up, he can pay his ex-buddy to murder his wife, but he ain't doing shit.
Yeah.
And he ain't suing nobody. He ain't doing it. He'll just try to scare. He intimidates people. People get intimidated. I don't know why. But
did Ben was Ben Ulrich the documentarian?
No, that's Evan.
Evan. Okay.
Evan,
so did Evan have anything to do with the Anarcho-Poco or the Anarchist
sorry,
show?
Evan, I butchered your last name. What's that?
Did Evan have anything to do with the Anarchist show?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. Evan bought the rights to Barry's life to create a documentary and sell it to CBC or Netflix.
That was a bad idea.
It got shopped around over the years and to different, and then he could never get Barry. And then, dude, he was paying Barry. Barry would get, and I figured out after we got there, and I talked to Evan in my capacity as working for Barry briefly a couple of times, but not enough to get any information from Evan or to him. We just knew of each other. We interacted, a handful of times. But it's like Barry. So Evan purchased the rights, but had to as part of Barry's contract, if you will, or stipulation was that he had to pay him a monthly sum. So Barry would get this money. He would get $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 a month. That's what he lived off of, aside from scamming people.
Yeah,
that was his bread and butter money that came every month. I found out
and
later
then when the time came
from Evan. But that was coming from Evan's pocket, his own pocket.
Yikes.
Got him for about. Evan doesn't. Well, it's out there. It's going to be in his book. I got him for 80-ish grand over the years.
And what's the book called?
I don't know if there's a working title. There's not a working title.
Yeah,
I'll let Evan reveal. There might be a working
last
title.
name.
I could spell it for you. It's
spell it.
GEOR. It's from memory. GEO. I can't. I don't want to butcher it. Sorry, Evan. I don't want to butcher your name. It's GEORGIADES. I think it's Greek, gorgeous.
It sounds Greek or something. Gergades or something.
Mr. Zalakanokis. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Sorry, Evan. I know his last name. I could probably write it down. I can't pronounce it. Good dude. He's from Toronto. Yeah.
All right, we'll have to tag him somehow in this so you can find the book when it comes out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
is he going to put the book out when the documentary comes out? Because Barry's saying it's all done deal.
Barry's a liar. It's not a done deal. Barry's
Yeah.
Listen, going forward, I can't say this enough. Anything Barry Cooper says is a fucking lie.
Yeah.
Anything he tells you, if he tells you it's raining, you better look out the window.
Yeah.
It's that kind of scenario.
Not surprised. Yeah.
And he's the kind of guy that just lies for no reason. If he tells you he's got a lighter in his pocket, a red lighter, it'll be black. And you'll be like, well, why'd you say it was red? And he'll be like, I don't know. Like he's just an idiot, dude. Like he's pathological, like.
Yeah, they don't have control of it.
And he's in full like survivor mode. Like he's like a junkie for money, like in a way, like obviously everybody has to live or whatever, but he's got the mentality of like he only thinks of what's my next move to steal some money. I need to get another 10 grand, another 5 grand, another whatever. What story do I need to tell to whom to get a check cut or to get money in my account? And he'll fucking tell you. He'll tell you anything that if you're offering him money, he thinks he'll get you money. He'll make up whatever fucking story you want to hear, bro. And he'll tell you right off the fly he'll make the most elaborate lie in the world. He'll tell you a 20-minute story about how he's getting paid from Hulu and it's a done deal and the producer called him and blah blah. And it's a fucking lie. It's all lies.
Yeah. I'm not
the dude's
surprised.
Never produced one shred of actual evidence for anything he's ever claimed in his fucking life. I doubt his name's even Barry Cooper.
Yeah.
I found out later some of the cop plaques that he showed me that were like Oklahoma State Patrol,
Like
or
someone
Texas State
else's.
Patrol. Now he had them made at a trophy shop.
Oh shit. Yeah.
Yeah, Mia told me that. I was just like, wait, what? Or no, Candy told me that, and I was like, wait, huh? I'm like, but there's like a badge on it, like a credit. She's like, yeah, he just went in there,
just order those,
flashed his old badge, and they just, oh, yep, and he said, oh, yeah, I'm Trooper of the Year, or whatever, and they just made it for him, and then he's like, look, I was Trooper of the Year, 1989, or whatever, it's like, it's a lot, it's fucking like, and he has a ton of props like that.
And like, why you would think that was cool is pretty baffling too.
Yeah, like, well, I mean, I'm just saying, like, he has a ton of items, and I'm trying to think of like a good example besides that plaque where it's like, it's probably not real, but he'll tell you like, oh, hey, look, I got this Jimi Hendrix guitar that his estate gave me because I did him a favor. And he'd have a good Fenders with scribbled Jimi Hendrix on there, but really he bought that at a pawn shop, scribbled on himself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And then he'll make up some story about it and go, look here, see, I got this, and it's like, it's fake.
Very active imagination.
Yeah, he's just a out of control, low level con man, dude. That's all he is. And if you're watching this and you're going to defend Barry, try to go hang out with him.
Yeah.
One, you're going to have to pay to do it. He ain't got no friends. He's got victims. And two, you spend 24 hours around him and you'll find out that everything I'm saying is true. I know people that have met him, been around him for a weekend and got Barry Coopered. I do. I know, I've told you 10 names. I know another 50 people that don't want to do this or be involved, but they got Barry Coopered. And that's like a verb amongst these people. It's like, oh, you got buried? Yeah, I got buried. Well, when did you get buried? Why did you? Oh, I went down there for the weekend and he fucking borrowed all this money from me and I paid for all his bills. And then he fucking, dropped me off on the side of the road and didn't even take me to the airport, stole my luggage.
Co-cash, getting co-cashed. Some people got co-cashed all the time.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Same shit.
You got Berwicked.
No, I mean, this story, like, there's so many similarities to the behavior in these guys.
They're the same guy.
Yeah,
they're all the same guy.
They're all the same guy. They really
and none of them are fucking anarchists or libertarians. No. They're just posers who are just couldn't make it in the Republican Party or the fucking Democrat on the bigger scale because they get fished out, so they just get in a little niche and I'm going to be famous in this little niche and con people. You know, and it's mostly with most of these guys, with those three guys specifically, it's less about money and more about ego, about stroking their own ego.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm a big deal. You know, like,
Kokesh physically removed me and other people that were living in a house in the house. I was on the lease. It was my place. He physically removed everything of ours.
I heard about this. Yeah, I think I heard about this. Yeah, because he flipped out because somebody
he
didn't
just
do what he
lost
wanted
his
to do.
mind.
Yeah.
You know, once everything was going really good, he just lost his marbles. And you know, every day just got worse and worse and worse. And people had moved, had quit their jobs, flown cross country. You know, like I you know, took a lease out on a huge house I couldn't afford, you know, because he couldn't sign a lease because he was, you know, he's been through too many houses.
Sounds familiar.
Oh, there's so many, like, there's so many similarities.
Yeah.
The drug use.
I was friends with Macy back in the day. You know, we've lost touch since, but around that whole time, and I knew, you know, I knew about Kokesh. You know, I only met him once briefly. Like him and I weren't, but I knew, you know. Berwick, on the other hand, like I used to defend Berwick because I kind of knew that he got hosed in the Gulch thing. Like he kind of got, that wasn't really his, you know, and so I kind of like,
that's
he's
what
a con
he was
man.
able to make it look like.
I was like, well, he didn't really have anything to do with that. That was not really him, you know, which is true, but that doesn't mean he's not a piece of shit.
The passport scam was definitely him.
Yeah. No, that was all him, you know. Yeah. No, there's a lot of other scams that
and all he had to do was film himself drunk with his shirt off, staggering around Acapulco, and everyone was all, "Oh, poor Berwick," you know.
Yeah. No, he's Barry Cooper from Canada. He's just another. He's Canuck Barry Cooper. He's not as off the rails, but he can be.
I'll tell you a fucked story about Adam. I was working on motorcycles, vintage motorcycle mechanic. So I was working on motorcycles, and I had a female customer over picking up her bike, right? And he opens up the door, the slider, and his dog, Baloo, comes out, right? And Baloo's all excited because there's someone there, and she's all, "Oh, cute dog," you know. And Adam goes, "Baloo!" Screams at him. Baloo comes back to him. Adam, oh, by the way, Baloo had a cone on his head because he was sick.
Right.
Adam kicks his legs out from underneath him. Baloo flips over, smacks his head on the ground. It sounded like a bowling ball hit on the ground. My customer bursts into tears, runs out of the backyard, and Adam just like slams the gate, the slider, like drags the dog in and slams the slider. And I was just like, did that just happen? You just like traumatized the woman and almost killed your dog for no reason, you know?
Yes, sir.
Like
I would have. The next thing would happen would have been me beating the shit out of Adam.
Yeah, I mean,
his dog or not. Now, I'm not. That's not a judgment on you.
Yeah,
I just, you know, like had I ever seen Barry hitting Mia too, I would have intervened.
Yeah.
You know, but there was a point too where, but she also would like defend it. You know, like I mean,
of course, yeah.
She's the type of chick that had I been there and they started fighting and I like grabbed Barry, even not like to hurt him, but just to like stop him.
He would have cried or something.
She would have attacked me.
Yeah.
She would have then attacked me. Like, you know,
like
she was
scratch her neck, scratch her eyes out with her nails.
Something. She'd have jumped on my back. Something. Why are you attacking Barry? You know?
Yeah, that's really.
In her mind, Barry can do no wrong. You know, nothing. Everything he says is true, or you know, just misunderstood. You know, she's got the worst case of Stockholm syndrome I've ever seen.
Yeah.
You know, like just
that's pretty sad.
I mean, she takes some beating, like some real beatings. You know, it's not like he's just backhand or not that that's okay. I'm just saying he's not like taking it. He hits her like a fucking man. You know, like
that's super sketchy.
Yeah, I'm in no way.
Okay.
I don't. Apparently, she's still with him. You know.
Yeah.
Like,
so he's doing that show from the Philippines.
So what is his podcast about?
He just goes up and
how great he is.
He live streams, so he gets a chat going, and he just goes because he's got a chat there, you know, and people are there.
I'm talking
people
to
are
Barry
egging him
Cooper.
on, and he's talking about all the same boring stuff, like it's all entry level stuff, but it's like they're all these 50-year-old guys in his comments, all these old guys that are like, yeah, fuck the government, fuck the cop, like it's like this weird,
Yeah.
it's like a weird conservative, like I don't even know, like
Libertarian
strange.
fuds.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah,
even, is it libertarians? I don't even think it's libertarians anymore. I think it's all like just a weird new YouTube crowd he's
Yeah.
gotten.
That being said, he didn't have a big YouTube presence when that hadn't been built
It's
yet.
got like 200,000 now or something.
That's sad.
Yeah.
That shows you how.
Well, we need to start, like, I don't know, like.
That's just Jesus. That shows you how low the bar is.
See these videos, obviously.
Yeah. Well, post the links in his comments. He'll block you, or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking I was more privy to his Facebook audience and
yeah,
Instagram
me
back in the
too.
day, and Twitter.
Me too, usually.
His YouTube stuff, that's all past me. I
it's
will
all
say
newer. It's like all like he somehow hit the algorithm, and like or he was, or he has a deal and they set him up.
Again, I'm going to reiterate anything he puts out there that he says he'll tell you he's got a deal with HBO, YouTube, Facebook, Netflix, whoever.
What he's doing reviews. He's doing a lot of cop video reviews and like like auditor reviews and shit, which is like the easiest stuff you can do.
Hey, you know what? He's doing something. If he's reviewing videos and people are watching him, I'm just saying don't send him fucking money for nothing. Yeah.
No, he begs the whole time.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
He's got to buy those hookers.
Yeah.
He's got drugs to buy.
Woo! Oh man, you think that's about it?
I mean, I could tell some more stories, but
I
think that encapsulates it.
Does that feel sufficient enough for you?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I wouldn't mind. Maybe we can do a follow-up one. I'll tell you about the cartel and drop some more nuggets.
Yeah.
It's going to be one of those things. I haven't thought about this stuff in a while. I don't dwell on this stuff. Like trying to put it behind me.
Yeah.
But
you always kind of want to feel like, like I always wanted to expose Adam for what I knew of him, just like I just need to do it so the world can
somebody
see
needs
it,
to do it.
maybe one person doesn't make the same mistake I did, like you were saying earlier.
Well, right after it happened, I was friends with Larkin and Amanda.
That's
Dragon,
her name.
Anarchist Amanda Rose. Yeah. And and she was, because I helped her when she went through the divorce and stuff a lot. We're kind of close there for a minute. And then she got with Larkin, and of course I knew Larkin, and then I told them what was going on with Barry, like kind of in real time, and then she's like, oh yeah, he attacked Macy and came on to me, and he tries to fuck everything that moves, whenever he goes to Anarchapulco, and tries to lure you into these weird sex parties with me, and of course I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what happened down.
Yep.
And then I was going to go to Anarchapulco, and Lee and Lisa were going to stay with Larkin and Amanda actually, and then Larkin was like, you know what? After Anarchapulco, I was talking to him, and I was like, Barry needs to get exposed, not again. And yeah, at the time I was sour fucking grapes, like I was fucking hot actually, but again, it was always like, it was like I don't want more people to be sitting where I'm sitting, broke in Mexico and lied to, and my fucking life.
That's right. Wasn't Larkin going to help you expose Barry?
So Larkin's like, Larkin did. First it was, well, wait till after Anarchapulco, and Larkin was going to do exactly what this, like me and you were doing right now.
Yeah.
It was we're just going to do a live, not a live, but like a video with very little editing. And he was just going to put out his platform with like a precursor of like, hey, this is a friend of mine. And I know his story to be true, and I believe him. And, you should listen to this. Barry's not who you think he is. And first it was like, well, let's wait till after Anarchapulco because I got a financial stake in it. And Barry and Berwick got beef. And, that's right when all that was going on. So I'm like, yep. And then it was like, then he got back and I was like, well, wait till after this Candles in the Dark because I got too much going on. Then it was wait till after this Christmas. Then it was wait till after this. And it kept getting kicked down the road. And then we got back to Denver. And then it was, he came to Denver, did a Candles in the Dark. And then he told me, again, it was just always wait till after this next event. And then it was the Jonesboro plantation, thing. Finally, after about 4 years of him kicking down the road, I realized he wasn't going to do it.
Yeah.
And then he ultimately admitted, kind of not so many words, that he was afraid of Barry and not afraid of him like physically, but afraid of the retaliation, from his followers. And, he just didn't want the strife, and I'm like, so much for your fucking, anarchist principles that do no wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, Larkin, good dude, but yeah, he's a bitch,
Yeah,
at the end of the day.
definitely.
He's so.
And he kind of soft exposed Adam, but like there's been I feel like I've heard over the years
for Larkin, he kind of went hard at Adam, and that's why I literally said to him, I'm like, why don't you fucking put some of that energy towards Barry? But it was like that Barry didn't touch him personally. See what I'm saying? So he didn't have as much. He was just kind of like, eh. And then he was kind of like, oh, Barry's got a lot of crazy followers. I don't want to hear it. Basically.
Yeah.
That's going to get in the way of what I'm doing.
Fucking
and I was like, and Berwick was going to expose him, but again, only when it touched him personally. But then Berwick was also going to put it out there that Barry was a piece of shit, but then reneged on it because he didn't want to deal with Barry. I was like, you know what? You guys are all fucking posers. I'm done. I'm out.
No, that's how it's always been, dude. Like I've watched like Derek Bros, like he was there for all the Adam stuff. And I was like, bro, can't you talk to people about this? And he wouldn't do it.
Say something.
Say something. You just watched it. You've been coming to me to confide in me about what you're seeing, and you're just not going to tell anyone because you don't want to burn a bridge with Adam Kokesh because he's got a following.
Well, and because his paycheck came from Adam Kokesh's father. You know what I mean? See?
Yeah. Because they're all sharing the same following.
And, I do want to say that, for people that watch this, and maybe I didn't verbalize this, maybe I should. I didn't want to stay and work with Barry. I only wanted to stay and work with Barry because I had to, because I was stuck, because I got lied to by Barry. Yeah. Now, granted, I take a lot of responsibility.
You ignored a couple red flags.
No, I fucking ignored waving Chinese fucking giant flags.
Yeah.
So no, I take full responsibility, actually.
Yeah.
However, I could have made a legit business that provided a real service and made money.
Yeah.
And we could have seen
and
our way
could have
out.
helped people.
I wasn't going to do anything unethical. I wouldn't do that. I don't do unethical shit. Like I wouldn't have done it. I refused. And I told him that consistently. And he would literally be like, "Oh, this guy's sending $5,000. We're gonna go party with that money, buddy. Like me and you, we're gonna go party. We're going to the sex club. My treat." And I'd be like, "No, that money is for that lady." Case. Like no.
And I have a wife, you asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a hot mess, dude. He's a fucking hot mess, dude. But and over the years I just dissociated. But somebody sent me something a few years ago. I'm gonna put this out there because I hope I find this dude. I want to give him a fucking medal, but I saw a thing. Somebody sent me a post. Somebody sent Max a post, or Ben, or somebody, or Antonio, one of the myriad of other people. I don't want to drop a bunch of other names. Yeah. Somebody sent one of the Barry Coopered people a post that then made its way to me off of Facebook, where Mia was ranting about some couple who conned Barry out of some money, and apparently it was a real thing because they were on there flaming him. And I saw. I can't remember their names or whatever, but I was like, holy shit, somebody got Barry. I wanted to find those people and send them a fucking trophy or a cape, because they got, and apparently it was real, but I don't know any of the circumstances, but I just saw a post, a mad post by like Mia and a mad post by Barry on Facebook. This was maybe like 4 years ago now. It was a minute ago. And I remember, and then it was just right around the time.
Hold on. What was the post about?
They just made a post about some couple and they named the couple in there, and I can't remember the names. And they had a Facebook thing, and I sent them a message on Facebook like, "Hey, what happened? I just want to hear the story. How did you get money out of Barry? Because that's like an oxymoron."
Barry, or they.
and
got
apparently it was a
paid.
significant amount. It wasn't like $500.
Yeah.
So now the sad part of that is it was not Barry's money. Barry doesn't
Yeah.
have his own money, you know,
Yeah,
unless
it's all
I mean
someone else's
maybe
money.
well maybe
He's
now
the cops. He's still the cops, you know, like it's
Yeah.
all someone else's money.
well he you know
Like if you sue the cops, you're only suing the public because it's the
suing
public's
yourself.
money. Yeah.
Well, you know, he that's another thing. One of the things he told me when he was a state trooper or drug interdiction, whatever, he would brag about how much he could steal, you know, from people. He'd go through and steal their stuff. And
I'm sure.
he loved to go on search raids. So he would go through somebody's house,
go through people's shit and grab
go
stuff.
through people's shit.
Yeah.
This couple that I know that went down to hang out with him for a weekend, he got caught sniffing her. Like they came in this bedroom. Barry was like upstairs going to the bathroom, and they came upstairs and he was in her. He had opened her suitcase and was sniffing her panties, and they walked in and caught him. Yeah.
Jesus Christ, dude.
And he loaned him. They still loaned him like $2,000, and then he got hosed.
Oh my God.
He's a hell of a con artist. He can spin a yarn. You know?
Well, these libertarians are just so gullible.
Hey,
these libertarians.
I'm not a libertarian, so I don't care. But you're right. Those, and like you were saying a minute ago, like most of his YouTube guys are like these 50-plus-year-old fuds or whatever.
Yeah.
Those never get busted tapes and those old news things that still go around YouTube. Yeah. They're powerful to somebody who doesn't know him and never heard nothing. Like if you're just Joe Schmo who's had the state's boot on your neck your whole life and you're like, man, fuck the pigs. And then all of a sudden you hear about this Barry Cooper dude who was a pig who then like tricked, went like switched sides.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a good story for sure.
Fought the good fight and fucking got the pigs.
Sounds
and then,
like a great story.
Yeah, he in fact he got him so bad he had to leave the country because they're south, Then,
that's the story I heard.
That's like a folk hero, dude. That's like fucking,
Yeah.
And that's what got me.
Yeah.
I'd
same with Adam, same with any of these guys. They all have this dope story or some dope viral video that got us all.
Yep. Let me reiterate that if you're watching this, there's me. You've heard some names: Ben, Antonio, Max, Lisa, whoever. There's another 100 people that you haven't heard that have this same exact story or some version of it where they got fucking scammed by Barry.
Wild.
You just haven't heard it, and some of them you'll never hear.
Yeah.
And Barry will tell you it's all lies. It's all, and at some point.
That's when I was talking to him on YouTube, he's like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And I'm all, Barry, come on, man. It's all these people and it's all of them. Like, come on, dude. It's been like this for years. I've known you for years. People have been saying the same thing the whole time. It's all them. Like,
I've got better stuff to do with my Friday night. Like, no offense, Jeff, you're a cool guy, but I got better stuff than, and I got no axe to grind with Barry at this point. I had to start my life over, but I'm good now. Actually, a guy that I met through Barry, it came around, like tipped me to a Bitcoin thing that I got in on, made, so.
Yeah. No, I mean,
I'm not a multimillionaire, but
there's
Max,
always good things that come from bad things. You get set up in a different direction for success, basically, and you can always it just takes a long time. And then once you see those things, you're all, oh, that happened because of that. Fuck, I don't even care. I'm not even carrying that around anymore.
Yeah, I really don't. Like I said, at the end of the day, and in all honesty, I feel sad for the dude. I feel bad for the dude.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Because what it must be like to be in his head and have to live out that, like, just the best, the worst. The worst revenge I can get on Barry Cooper is just let him be himself.
Of course. Yeah.
Go be Barry Cooper, dude. Good luck to you, bro. Go get out there and scam someone.
Yeah.
All
right, man.
He'll have to answer for it.
Yeah.
But let me just say this in closing. You were talking about like trying to bring him on, debate him or something.
Yeah.
That was done with that Isaac kid. I think I told you about this, and he'll just get on, rant, rave, call everybody a liar, and then he'll just click off.
Any value of that in any way
Antonio
whatsoever.
Tried to debate him and catch him and gotcha him and call him out, he'll just click. He'll just call you a liar and start screaming and click off.
Yeah,
he'll never produce any evidence. He supposedly can prove everything he says. He can't
Yeah.
prove anything he says. That's the irony.
Yeah,
you know?
that's what he said. And it seems like he doesn't have much of vocabulary because I've always seen him saying the same couple lines over and
He's
over
got
again to everyone.
He's got about a functional 8th grade education.
Yeah.
Functional.
Yeah.
You know, he reads and writes at about a 7th or 8th grade level. I'm not, that's just true. I've seen, he has to have Mia or someone, Lisa was doing it for a while. I did it. He has to have people, he'll henpeck out an email and it'll all be phonetically spelled and it looks like a fucking 2nd grader wrote it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, if he doesn't have spell check or editor, he's fucked.
Yeah. Well, all right, man. I got to get out of here.
Me too,
That
bud.
was 3.5 hours.
Yeah, I was just like, fuck.
But that needed to happen. Obviously, that's been a long time in the making. I'm glad you were able to get up here and do it. Now you don't have to think about it anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's gonna be on the mind for a while. And you know, I was bitter there for a minute. I was upset for a minute. You know, when I say a minute, like maybe like a year after we got back and we were broke.
Yeah.
You know, and we had to start over.
Oh yeah.
You know, I'm just like motherfucker. But I can't. At the end of the day, like has been said, you know, I'm the fault. You know, I overlooked.
Yeah.
You know, well, me and Lisa talk about when we talk about, we're like, if you'd have just flown down there, you know, I would have been like, nope, we're not going. You know what I mean?
You would have known. Yeah.
You know, oh well, could have, should have, would have. You know.
All right. Yeah.
So, all right, man.
All right,
Get in touch with me. Maybe we'll do a follow up.
Fuck yeah. All right.
Later, brother.
Have a nice night.
Yep.
Peace.